Hey, it is the Giant Bombcast for Tuesday, the 13th of April, 2021. I am Brad Shoemaker. Jeff Gerstmann, are you ready to fight the forces of evil?
No. What's their offer? I want to hear what they got going on. What do they got? They got benefits. What are they?
We have Danny O'Dwyer, our in-house representative from Evil Incorporated. What do you got?
No benefits, but if you get the vaccine, you get to take 2 days off to watch the Lord of the Rings extended editions, which is what I've just done.
Oh,
that does sound promising. All right.
Of course there are no benefits. That's why they're evil.
Damn.
Jason A. Stryker, how's it going?
Yes. The goddamn copays in this is just ridiculous. I got to go every week and paid $60. Are you nuts? No.
He's not happy.
All right.
These pentagrams don't paint themselves.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Jan Ochoa.
That's me. I have thought about doing the whole podcast wearing sunglasses, but everything is dimmed down.
You could rock
20%.
You could still wear sunglasses.
I bought a pair of blue blockers also, just in case.
Ooh,
I need
nice.
I got these. I can kind of see.
This works.
You can never take those off now.
I gotta get these.
That's slick.
Those glasses and that headband have to remain from now on. It's part of your contract.
All right, I'll do it. It's gonna be really hard to see. Like, who's this email from? Okay, all right, we're good.
Shouldn't be checking your phone anyway.
You're right. Throw that
right.
away.
Who needs emails when you look like that?
Exactly. That's what I've been saying this whole time.
That's right. I was hoping we'd be able to roll in here and be all like fully vaccinated cast, but we're not quite there yet.
Close. So close.
Yeah,
We got a couple days.
We're getting there.
I'm halfway there.
Jeff, you got the juice?
Nice.
So, yeah.
Oh, man.
Dude, I drove to did anyone go to a drive-through?
No.
Mm-mm.
I went to Walgreens.
Afterwards.
It's crazy. So I went to City College in San Francisco. And,
right.
It's like, whatever. I think it's become cliche, but it was like this one of those other big moments of just like, oh, this looks like a disaster movie. This looks like this looks like some shit they would set up in a movie about a bad thing that happened, because it's like, here's this like weaving through this parking lot to get to a check-in spot, and then my name on my license didn't match the name I had registered under, so like, we're putting this pink cone on your car and you need to drive over here. And I'm like, oh no. And then I just got over there and they just changed it and said you're good, and drive up. And then you drive up to a different parking lot and weave through all these cones, and then they've got 16 different lanes of people just getting shots. And it was like this insanely efficient operation that was also like weirdly terrifying, or like really off-putting. And so I like, by the time I got up to the lady who was there to help and give me the shot and all this other stuff, and this is like amazing, like she's amazing, but also like at the time I was just not ready for it. The first words out of her mouth are, "You got anything you got to tell me? I'm a cop."
Whoa.
And I was just like,
What?
Like, I just like had no response for it at all. I was just like, no. And she was fucking with me, I think. And I don't think she actually was a cop. And
Time and
so, so then like
keep themselves occupied.
Yeah, right. So like kind of amazing, because then it's like I pull forward and she's like, okay, relax your arm. I'm like, okay, roll up your sleeve. Okay, I roll my sleeve. I relax my arm. The sleeve falls down again. So I'm like, And at this point, I'm so off guard. I'm like, sorry, I need to just pull my sleeve again. Ooh, And she's just like, relax. You need to not move. Don't move. Do not move. And I'm like, I'm not bad at getting shots, but like that whole process was so jarring and fucking crazy that I was just like, and whatever, I got it. And then I like just pulled forward and then like sat there. They make you sit there for 15 minutes to be like, hey, if anything bad's gonna happen, it's gonna happen in the first 15 minutes. So like they have a lady walk over, they have multiple people walking around. A lady walks up and says like, hey, so yeah, you're timing yourself. Great. Okay. Just when you're done, you can just pull out and go. If anything happens, you feel weird, just honk your horn. Okay.
Whoa.
No information about like what weird is or any of that other stuff, or like what might it seem like if there was something going on. So it's just like sitting there going like, am I weird? Do I feel weird? I don't know. Is this weird? And then like
My
the
arm
whole
hurts.
drive back home. Yeah, my arm didn't hurt yet, but it was just like, and then an hour drive home of me going like, am I okay? Am I in my lane? Am I swerving? What's going? This is fine, right? I'm fine, right? It's just like, God damn, man. Yeah. So amazing experience. One for the books. I'm looking forward to going back in like a month, and I hope I get the same lady. I hope they're all equally
you guys
crazy.
have built up a rapport so far. So
That sounds like City College to me, from in my experience. That's a lot like it.
Yes, you found your vaccine, buddy. They hang out on the line long enough, they go a little stir crazy.
I bet.
Oh,
So
sure.
none
I
of
mean, they got to have
Petaluma?
fun too. Like like trying to find an appointment around here was a lot harder, and also the qualifications are different by county.
Right.
And so some things haven't fully opened here yet. I was eligible there, but not here. Not that anyone checked, but like I was able to like meet the letter of the law to the fullest there and find an appointment. That was actually still also the first appointment I found. So I get to go back there in a month, and my arm hurt for 2 days, but whatever. I'm very excited about it.
yeah, I didn't feel anything with the first one, just the soreness of the arm. We'll see how the second one goes in a couple days, but
Hey, it's like the man said, it
Anyway.
hurts so good.
yep,
I think that's what that song is about.
exactly.
It's getting the vaccine.
Yeah, that's probably what it was about. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, the one I got was like they set up like a pop up, I guess, or something, like just a couple of days off MacArthur here in Oakland, and like a dude who lives around here, who follows me on Twitter, just like hit me up and was like, I think they're just taking walk-ins because I'm not eligible. So we went up there and they were like, yeah, just come on in. I guess they just had extras and there wasn't enough people coming, which was pretty crazy. So,
Yeah, like that was apparently like a huge
Yeah.
problem in LA at some point last week or the week before. They were like
Right.
trying to desperately put out the call, just like, hey, we've got all these doses and nobody is here. Like, please come get vaccinated.
Yeah.
yeah.
I have thought
Uh,
about driving down and doing it if I wasn't my
What?
mind wasn't broken.
That's a lot of driving. That's what you do with your time. Is
I
up
know
to
people
you,
that
I
drove for
guess.
5 hours to
Wow.
go get theirs, and
Wow.
I think Lang drove a long way to get his, and then just kept going. He didn't turn around and go back home. He was just like, "All right, cool."
Wait, is that when he was on his weird fast food tour of like, I'm driving through a town with the name of a fast food item? Should I go buy that
just-
item? I forget I can't remember what the item was.
I think he was in Texas. Well, I don't even
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him. I just like seeing him on Instagram in random states. I'm just like, man, you just had to get out there, huh?
I can't.
Rough
I
year for
cannot
that
remember what
guy.
it was. But like, this is not the actual name, but it was something like, "Hey, I'm about to pass through Dairy Queen, Texas. Should I go to the Dairy Queen?"
Right,
The answer
Yeah.
is yes.
McFlurry, Virginia.
women.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yes. 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 Well, vaccine or not, I've got a fever.
Mm.
Whoa.
Sorry, was that not the game music?
That's not the fever.
That's
No,
the famous
no, that's
music.
yeah,
It's a fever for
Yep.
Pac-Man. I've got a Pac-Man
it's not
fever.
a game.
I've got a Pac-Man fever. I've got 99 Pac-Mans. Somebody help me out here. I'm trying.
And
Ghost ain't
Blinky
And
ain't
a
one.
Switch ain't one.
Whoa! Wow. Top
Okay,
shelf.
all right, yeah,
Danny.
that,
Top shelf. That's good stuff.
There's your podcast name.
Right. Pac-Man 99. They are just continuing to 99 things somehow. I guess they took a little detour into 35ing things for a second, but that went away. They abandoned that experiment, and yeah,
we're like,
is
hey,
this
this
actually
game is not vertical, so it needs all the other players will take up more space.
right.
We can only fit
yeah.
34.
Where are we gonna put 98 other boxes representing other players on this screen? Unless it's
On
an old
this
arcade
Mario
game with a vertically oriented screen. I guess this is actually the second 99 game, right? Technically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Super Mario 35.
Mario was 35.
Yeah, 35 is kind of in that vein, but not quite the same thing. And they
Right.
killed it. You can't play it anymore.
They
Also,
killed Mario.
That's right. Everybody knows his well-publicized demise.
They were originally going to kill Tetris 99, weren't they? I think when they announced that, it was like kind of they put it out there as like, hey, this is kind of a limited time thing. And I remember there being some uproar then. But then Tetris 99 proved to be so popular, I think they were just like, oh, fuck it. Let's just make DLC for this and keep selling it or sell it in addition to keeping it running. But I seem to remember when that thing first hit that there was sort of a, this isn't going to be around forever vibe to it.
I would stop subscribing to that service if they took Tetris 99 off of it out of principle.
Yeah, there's not... I mean, I don't even know that I don't even play much Tetris 99. So there was like, I got my renewal notice for the Nintendo Online service. And I was like, oh, right. I guess, I guess I'm in for another year. But like, I can't remember the last time I actually used that.
I used it to play through Super Mario Brothers 2 at some point.
Oh, that's right.
That was a poor use of that subscription. Anyway, I went to play Pac-Man 99 and found that my subscription had also lapsed, and it turned out to be not. Right? It was not Pac-Man 99, but Tetris 99 that made me re-up because I was like, I'm going to play another year of Tetris 99. Sure, here's $20. But Pac-Man 99 is not Tetris 99, but I think it's pretty good. Do you guys actually like it? It's interesting. It's not. I think it might be a little too busy. Like Pac-Man might be a little too busy to try to manage. Like
it seems so hard to parse.
Off to the side at the same time, especially because they've added so much extra complexity to the playing of Pac-Man. Like I have no time to look at like here's who I want to target. Like here's the power up I want to change to right now. I'm just like trying to fucking survive the whole time. But
yeah, that's because I think I did really poorly the first few times I played because you only get one life and then you're back to matchmaking, which was frustrating. But like, so yeah, as I'm trying to look around and go like, okay, what information is it giving me over on the sides, and also like the text of who you're targeting, like the what the analog sticks do, the readability on that I found pretty poor because it's laid against the Pac-Mans.
Yeah,
and that whole thing just felt bad. Like I think Tetris did this the same way, where they don't necessarily tell you anything about how to play it, or not much, and you're kind of left to figure out like, okay, I should maybe like strategically be targeting these types of people and do this and that. This feels like that even times two, where you kind of get the basic information about like, okay, the jammer Pac-Mans are going to make you slow down, and when you eat these little shadow ghosts, it's going to make a big ghost train. But like they never tell you like, hey, there are sparks in this, like there are in Pac-Man Championship Edition, until you start playing it. And if you don't know what that means, you're not going to know what that means. So it's they could do a better job, I think, of like just onboarding players into it, and also kind of maybe showing you what to do. I like it just like because I've played a lot of it and still don't really know what I should be doing to do better at it, other than just like focus on the Pac-Man. And it's weird.
Yeah, I almost have to assume they've got some intentional like Dark Souls like mentality about it at this point, because like they even went out of their way to further obfuscate things from Tetris that you were already familiar with, like the little 4-way joystick to like decide who to target your attacks at. Like they changed the terminology on that. Like in Tetris, it's like fairly straightforward of like target attackers, target the people with the most badges. It's like you can at least parse what those terms mean on the fly. But like here, they've changed it to like hunters and counters, and it's like what? Like just keep the same terms you had. I already knew what those were. Like it's very easy to get lost in this thing. I think it's kind of neat, but like it's worse than Tetris 99 in that you kind of need to go find like a subreddit or something and read what people are saying about it to actually get the depth and the nuance.
Definitely. And I think that downtime, matchmaking is really fast in it, but it was still that feeling of like, I lost one life in Pac-Man and now I have to hold down this button and let it go all the way back into the hopper and then match before I get to try again. And that's not like, I kind of want to be able to just bang, bang, bang. Like they are selling an offline mode, which makes sense in the context of this is a free thing as part of their multiplayer service, that anything on top of that would be for sale. But at the same time, this game, probably more than Tetris and Mario even, would benefit from you being able to just like have a handful of offline matches to ramp up on what you're supposed to be doing, like a better tutorial, more time with the game before it throws you in there or something like that, I think would go a long way.
Yeah, they're selling a lot as well. It's like I don't remember Tetris 99 being like, this feels like a demo almost, with at least the way the menu set up, right? Everything just has big locks on it. But yeah, I felt the same way. I immediately wanted to do a couple of AI battles after I had like 2 or 3 games, because it felt like getting into like the top 30 or so, if you're just focusing on your own play, wasn't super difficult. But the minute my eye started to wander to play the sort of meta game, which you kind of need to do, I guess, get into the top 10 or whatever, it was like rubbing my stomach and patting my head. It was just too much going on, especially at that stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a shame. And what is it? It's like $15 to unlock all the modes,
Yes,
and then there's like $30 for a bunch of skins. Is that what it is?
So I think it's I think the $30 deluxe pack is everything. It's all the mode unlocks and every skin, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And then you can just unlock those modes for 15, and then each theme is $2 on its own. So it's like kind of a lot of DLC.
They eventually sold a lot of Tetris stuff, though, right? Like that at launch, they didn't have any of that in, but it seems like once it took off, they were like, "Oh, let's put in some modes here and sell them."
It was kind of cheaper and more generous, though. Let me double check. I think it was like $10 for the. It might have been like 2 $10 packs. Yes, maybe just one actually. I think it was just the big block DLC was $10 that added more modes. Like all the skins have always been free in Tetris. You just earn them. So they are definitely like going a little harder on monetizing this thing around the edges, and like you buy those offline modes and like you play them enough to get a feel for the game, and then you're never going to play them again, right? Because the whole point is playing it against other people once you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's weird. Like again, I think it makes sense in the context of here's a thing you get along with your subscription, like the way they've broken that out, but it's counterintuitive to the way a lot of other games work, where you'd be like, oh, you can. Here's the demo, it's just offline versus, and then if you want to play the full game, you got to pay. And that includes the online mode or something to that effect. But I think for me, it was like, even just the little of the opposing players' screens, when they show them off to the side, like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of information there other than you see a big Pac-Man and some ghosts. And you're like, that doesn't really tell me who's a threat. And then you've got, like you said, they've renamed all the things for targeting in ways that don't necessarily make a ton of sense. And did Tetris have 2 sticks? This has 2.
No, I'm trying to think. No, it just has the 4-way to target people, and then I'm trying to think. I guess that's it. I mean, you can hold pieces and stuff, but as far as like targeting, but like that's it, because this has power ups. Like whenever you get a power pellet, you can choose what it does, but I still don't know what all those do. There's speed, which is pretty fucking obvious.
Oh, okay.
But then
is that what the other stick does? I just didn't so the readability on those has been so bad that I haven't even.
So those are the other one is face buttons, not the stick. But yes, those are power ups that become active when you get a power pellet. And like outside of speed, I don't know what the others do, because the others are standard, strength, and I think train. Which I'm sure that has something to do with like the way the ghosts spawn in a giant line that you're supposed to combo off of or something. Like, I apologize that we're not describing how this game plays more, but I really have not quite figured it out yet.
It plays like Pac-Man with some extra stuff in the maze.
It's like a little CEDX kind of. It's like seems pretty combo based. Like the general loop is like there are like lines of power, like not power ups, but kind of like, what would you call those? Just a big
little shadowy ghosts that you're eating to make ghost trains.
Right, and that turns like a single ghost
in your maze.
Right. And then if you get enough regular, what are the dots, I guess is the parlance of Pac-Man.
Yeah.
If you get enough dots, it spawns a fruit. And then when you get a fruit, it will kind of refresh everything on the board. So you can get more of those. You try to spawn more trains, but obviously like the longer the ghost trains, the harder it is to keep maneuvering without getting overwhelmed. So you have to pop a power pellet and eat them at some point. And I assume getting those giant combos is what attacks other people's boards. But again, it's just so fucking busy. Like it's really hard to keep track of what's going on.
I think any ghost you eat gets sent to your target's board. I don't think you necessarily have to do that combo, but if you want to make the have a bad time, you want to send over as many ghosts as possible to clutter up their maze with stuff. There's also the jammer, which you'll see like little shadow Pac-Man guys show up too, and if you cross their paths, it will slow you down.
Yeah, but then they decay when you do it, so they're kind of single use.
Yes, and so there's like the eat the fruit, respawn the maze stuff is very Champion Edition, like Pac-Man. There's the ghost trains and the sparks you get when you're trying to turn a corner is all from that game as well. So it's like it's pulling stuff from a very great Pac-Man game.
Oh,
but I don't think it uses that stuff well. And I don't know, but at the same time, like I don't know that I felt great about the other two, about Mario 35 or Tetris 99 until I played a whole lot of it. So there's a part of me that wonders like, if I kept up with this for another 3 weeks or so, would I be like, oh, you just, once you understand Pac-Man, it's amazing. So I'm not quite ready to write it off, but this feels like maybe the weakest of the three. And I didn't love Mario either. So
really, I'm enjoying this a lot more than Mario, but it is not perfect. There's a certain elegance I think that is kind of lacking to this.
Yeah. But it did make me think about like other arcade games. I mean, like these all do. You start to think about like what other games could you do this to, and I think the treatment that Pac-Man gets here is like relatively light touch in a way that it feels like, oh well, they're open for business. So you could do a Dig Dug, you could do a Mappy, you could do, not that there is big names as Pac-Man, but I feel like there's just a big open door there for other Namco franchises that you could do this to that would actually be at least as good as Pac-Man, which is interesting because now it makes me wonder like what will they do next, because this opens it up to third-party companies in a way that they kind of hadn't before.
Tapper,
yeah,
99.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
It was weird seeing the Bandai Namco logo at the front of this because I assume it's just the same developer as Tetris 99. Like everything about it is the same. The menus are the same. Like the layout, the sound effects. Like it is that game but with Pac-Man. So I assume they're just like, doing mercenary work for.
Didn't Arika do the Tetris?
Arika did Tetris.
Yeah.
I assume they did the development heavy lifting here too. I could be wrong, but it's like it is the spitting image of Tetris.
Yeah, so. It looks like yes, because I just wonder if that was something that Nintendo would put forth and say, hey, if you want to be one of these games, here's the visual language you need to stick to. But it looks like Arika did do the work.
That's what I mean. Is just like maybe anybody can potentially ink a deal for their IP to get this treatment, which would be kind of rad. Like I would love to check out some more stuff like this.
Yeah, it's been a fun, interesting twist to like Nintendo's online offering, which again, like this is the only part of that offering I'm really using on a somewhat regular basis because I'm not playing online games on Switch really, and I'm not playing their emulated stuff much there either, so that's not a huge draw, but it's neat.
Yeah, it's cool to see them keep trying stuff.
Yeah, I feel the same way, where it's like if it's kind of like the Outriders thing. Give us a week maybe of playing it, and maybe it gets more compelling. The onboarding isn't wonderful. I think even knowing that going into it would have been nice, just to know that it's a little bit like you got to do a bit of work to figure out exactly what's going on.
For sure.
But yeah, it's snappy, and there's a lot of people playing, so it is annoying to get bumped back to the menu, but at least the games tend to come as fast as they could.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you get back in fast.
I think I have been convinced to do that work. I think I'm going to go find the subreddit or whatever. I'm sure that exists by now, and like start reading up on it because I think I've turned that corner on it. I have a burning question about Outriders, but we're going to take a real quick break and take a look at some technical stuff real quick. Try to iron a couple things out. We will be right back in just a second with more.
Is debt a thing going on in your life that you're looking for some help with? You've got a credit card that you're just, you don't even want to look at it. You don't even want to see what the balance is. You're avoiding it. Well, there's Upstart. Upstart can help you face that debt and finally pay it off. Upstart is the fast and easy way to get a personal loan to pay off your debt all online. Whether it's paying off credit cards or consolidating high interest debt or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple fixed monthly payment. All right. Upstart finds smarter rates with trusted partners, and they assess more than just your credit score. They've got a 5-minute online rate check that you can see your rate up front for loans from $1,000 to $50,000. So you can know right there, hey, is this rate better than the rate that I've already got on some of these cards? Yes or no? You can get approved the same day. You can receive funds as fast as one business day. So if debt is taking over your life, maybe give Upstart a look, huh? How about that? Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/bombcast. That's upstart.com/bombcast. Don't forget to use the URL to let them know we sent you. Yeah. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/bombcast.
All right, I have one question. Show of hands, who's still got their Outriders inventory?
I don't know.
I do.
I haven't checked it since last night.
Haven't checked? Okay.
And it was fine then.
I went and did an emergency check right before this podcast started because like at first it was just like a couple people, and then I started seeing more and more people posting screenshots of like, here's my naked character at the character select screen. And I was like,
That's ridiculous. Oh,
Nightmare.
man.
and it
That
sounds like
sucks
there's
so
no
bad.
fix.
It's so they've had multiple steps of talking about ways they would fix lost inventory, but all of it sounded like, well, you won't get your whole inventory back. It might just be the stuff you had equipped, and even then, the stats won't be the same. So just like sounds like they are incapable of doing legit full restores of inventory. I haven't played the game in 2 or 3 days because I've been working on other stuff. So I assume I'm okay. My problem is I started trying to play on PC. I ended up with the game on the Epic Games Store, and it just won't launch. So I like double click to launch it or launch it out of the launcher. It tries to launch it, screen goes black, and then it just crashes back to desktop, and that's that. And
No
it's
error.
just the weirdest
I downloaded it to see if it would run. It seems to be working fine on my end, so I'm not sure.
That's a bummer because I would love to hear.
Yeah.
I would love to hear what the cheat engine story is with that game because it's like kind of online, but kind of not. And I assume that's exactly what you were going to do with it.
I was just going to see how it ran before I did that. They actually did say that they were going to flag people as cheaters. And because the game, I mean, literally the desktop icon for Outriders when it installs through the Epic Store is the fucking easy anti-cheat, like polygonal panda thing. Okay. So, I mean, they are trying to do some stuff there to keep people from having fun with their game. God forbid people have fun. I mean, like one of the coolest things you could do with, especially in lieu of like, hey, the inventory is getting lost. But one of the coolest things you could do with Borderlands, any of those games, was to get a save editor because it would let you edit your inventory and you really got to see how the guns were made. Because you could just edit the inventory with drop downs and be like, I wanted to have this barrel and this thing. Like you were just assembling the gun the same way the RNG does to a certain extent. And it would come out the other end. You'd be like, oh, weird.
It's not quite giving you the fabled gun, but it's the next best thing.
Yeah. No, the Borderlands 3 does have the gun that shoots guns.
Oh, it does? Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like a late game quest item and it sucks. Like it costs a currency. Like every time I fired it, all the guns were garbage, and it costs a currency that you would be better off using on something else. So they closed the loop on it in the most Borderlands way possible. Of like, oh, this is really disappointing. Congratulations.
That's randomness for you.
And that's our discussion on Outriders.
Yeah.
Has anyone played much more of it aside from the bugginess? I haven't had a chance to drop back yet.
We played a decent amount of it on stream last week in a 3-player configuration, and it was like kind of better than I expected. Like I really sort of started coming around on that game after the end of that.
I certainly had a much better time. Yeah, playing as
all
a
it took.
Technomancer.
All it took was joining somebody's way higher level game and getting a bunch of way better loot that I had previously. And I was like, oh, these guns glow and are coded purple and orange rarity. Now I like this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was where I mean, I'd already kind of turned the corner on it, but like when we did that stream and played and got like even better stuff out of it, I was like, oh, okay. Like the high tier loot, or at least the first taste of high tier loot in this game, is kind of awesome as well. And you know, it's like named items and all this other stuff. And so yeah, I really want to go through it. I'm kind of holding off while they're going through this process of fixing whatever the bug is around inventories. So I just kind of haven't played in a few days. But they did make some balance changes that kind of made some of the abilities I was using less good. And I don't think it impacts the way I play that class or the amount of fun I'm having with it. They changed some cooldowns and you know, messed some other numbers around to kind of bring it more in line. But honestly, like the powers they nerfed were about shooting guns. And I think the least interesting thing in that game is when you're shooting guns, and the other powers are cooler. So anything that's going to move away from using twisted rounds and some of those different abilities in favor of like big weird time bubble or big weird slow down knife and stuff like that, I think is probably a good thing. I hit a side quest in that game that I kind of want to talk about. It's a ridiculous. So I think the writing of that game is still terrible, but there's one side quest that actually I think capitalizes on the dumb voice work of the main character, and all this other stuff. It's kind of a throwaway side quest, but I just if you'll allow me, I would like to go through it here real quick.
Yeah, you have the floor.
Okay. So you go up to a merchant who has a side quest. We found this guy while we were streaming the game, but I didn't hear anything about what he had. He's a guy. He's got a debt with a gambler, and like in any of these games, you're just the guy who just goes like, "Okay, I'll take care of your debt. I'll pay your debt. That's what I'm here to do, right?" Like, why would anyone ever do that? But of course, in true video game protagonist fashion, you're like, "No, yeah, I'll go see the gambler about your debt, I guess." And the tent that the gambler's in is like 10 seconds walk away. You walk over there, you go in his tent, and it's all cutscene. Your guy sits down, the gambler's there with a pistol, with a revolver, and he's like, "Oh, you're here to settle the debt, huh? Well, play the game with me." And it's literally Russian roulette. And so the guy spins the chamber, he goes first, nothing happens, slides it to you. And you're a god, basically, in this world. So what do you have to lose, even if the game is rigged? So then you just pick up the gun and fucking shoot yourself in the goddamn head. It's all cutscene. The gun goes off, you slump over, and then your skin glows blue, and you get back up like this, and you go like, "All right, your turn." Pass the gun back over to him, and he goes like, "I mean, it shouldn't be a problem. There's only one bullet in the gun, right? Right? And then the gambler fucking goes, and you have to go like, "Look, you pull that trigger or I will." And then the gambler just picks up the gun, shoots himself in the fucking head. And then you walk out of the tent, walk back over to the guy and goes, "Fix your debt problem." Basically.
Wow.
You're like, "Cool, here's a gun."
Dude.
There we go.
And
there we go.
It's
More
like
of that, please.
5 minutes.
Man.
It's like super stupid, hilarious in the most
that game
perfect way.
That game needed more of that for sure.
Yeah.
Less of taking itself so deadly seriously in the kind of core storyline that they mostly do.
Yes. It definitely it is the high point of that entire game for me, is that stupid little moment. And yeah. So I don't know. I think people should play that game. I think they should play it on Game Pass, because I still think like the amount, like paying full price for it might be a little dicey, but maybe the end game is worth it. I'm not sure yet, because we just haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten there. So
yeah, some of those higher level guns actually seem pretty interesting. Just like the firing characteristics and the way they look and stuff like that. Like the loot seems decent in that game.
Yeah,
for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Does
Danny.
any of the character stuff, like you said, I know you didn't get it to run on Epic, but would your character have been playable over there?
No, it's cross play, but it is not cross progress.
Shame.
But also, right now there's a bug. I think they're supposed to be fixing it this week, where cross play between PC and console is broken. So console to console works, PlayStation to Xbox, but the PC I think is still broken.
I didn't get that pop up right before this when I checked my inventory.
So maybe they fixed it. Yeah,
I think that might be fixed, or they're not notifying people about it anymore. So
yeah,
on to the next bug.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the game's better than expected, is I guess what I would say.
It's filling
I've been having a good time with it.
It's a good solid B game with loot.
Yes, absolutely.
I would say is how I would describe that. Gosh, what else we got going on here? Danny, did you actually play some of that Switch port of Republic Commando? Because I love Republic Commando, and I don't know why you wrote "lol" after it in this email.
Because the idea
Commando was legitimately a good video game.
No, don't get me wrong, I love Republic Commando since it came out in...
It's the best video game based on Attack of the Clones that's ever been made, that's for sure.
Yeah, so like that's the thing, is like, I know this is done by Aspire, who did the Episode 1 Racer port and stuff, but like a little bit of me was thinking...
the Zombie, that's them too.
Yes,
this
it
remake
was, totally.
of the port of that just came out.
But part of me was thinking like, oh, you guys just want like a Mando ass looking person on the Switch store, so people can pick that up off the back of the show's hype. But like, no, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Republic Commando too. Like when that game came out in 2006, did a lot of interesting things. The like managing a squad stuff, even though it's pretty light. I think each of the folks in Delta Squad, this is pre Gears of War Delta Squad, they all have like, they're interesting sort of soft characters, and my favorite part was always whenever you got blood on your visor, it just kind of cleans it.
It's got like a laser wiper or something like that.
Totally, yeah. It's like a windshield wiper for your head.
Yeah. Does anybody watch the Clone Wars here? I have never seen it, despite being told for years.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I hear nothing but great things. I don't know what the lineage was though between this game and that series, because like they both kind of try to take the clones, who are like literally like assembly line soldiers, and give them actual distinctive personalities. And I don't know who did it first, but I remember this game doing it pretty well.
I think this game did it first because there was 2 Clone Wars animated shows. There was like the 2D one and then the 3D one that wound up becoming super popular. So I think this game supersedes that.
Yeah, you probably are right. Like, actually, Danny describing it is really putting it in like historical context. If this is like before Gears of War, this is like when
it's old. Yeah,
this was like. I mean, it's a gen before the 360 game, right? It's like a PS2, GameCube, right? Original Xbox era game, isn't it?
I remember playing it on PC.
Yeah, I think I did too. But it's from that. It's like kind of pretty pre video games era. I guess
2005. 2005. So
it's 2005. Okay.
It's not quite. I mean, yeah, it's not quite 360. But close.
Yeah, and it has that feeling of like
era.
It's a first-person game, but we have to put in some things that are smart here. Like having, back then, having 3 other characters that are with you that are, specialized. Like for anyone who doesn't know, there's like you're basically a group of 4 of these clone soldiers, although they're not really. They have a quick little bit of narrative at the start that explains it, but like one's a sniper, one's a technician, one's a demo guy, and then there's you, and you're the leader, and you can hit like A to get them to like go at that sniping post, or unlock this door, but they can also be downed and all that sort of stuff. So it plays like the same as that game, so it's super aged. Like if you play it today, the nostalgia, you need your rose-tinted glasses to sort of enjoy it, but the biggest problem is that there's a super dodgy frame rate on the Switch port.
Oh no! What?
Yeah, and Aspire are apparently working on a fix for it, but it's not wonderful. Like some of it in the intro sequences where there's obviously not much going on, it seems to run. I'm playing on handheld as well, so maybe it's the worst possible outcome. But that stuff looks super smooth. It like runs at 60, and then the problem is that like. Once you actually get into I'm talking like sometimes it drops like 15 frames a second. Like
what?
It's not great. So they're working on a patch. They are one of the companies that was embraced late last year around the same time Gearbox was. So maybe the Embracer group can help them in some way. I don't know.
But, spare some money to make it run right.
To make good on it. But yeah, I put a lot because like. I think the reason anyone would buy this is the reason I bought it, which is it seems really stupid to be able to play Republic Commando on a portable console in 2021. It's like the equivalent to me of playing like Star Trek Elite Force on the Switch.
I had the exact same reaction when they put Jedi Outcast on the Switch a couple years ago.
I think that was them too.
That is a Quake 3 engine game that I played on a personal computer, and like here it is on the. It's just such a weird fit.
I think this is too. I think this is also Quake 3 engine.
That might be right. But it's definitely like a very PC centric game, like you said. Is this only on the Switch? This new release?
It is Unreal Engine. It is the Unreal Engine here. So UE2 on original Xbox and PC.
Unreal Engine 2,
not PS2, not GameCube. It was
that would make sense.
Exclusive.
Gears of War was like the big UE3 like debut showpiece, right?
Right. And it doesn't have like a graphics update or anything like that. It is pretty much. I shouldn't say that. Perhaps there is some stuff. Actually, the one thing that did look like it was maybe higher res was the scanning animation. Looked like it was sharper than it would have been back then. But like, this isn't a redo or anything. It's very much the original. So I enjoyed playing. I played like the first 4 levels over again, like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours in, and yeah, fun for the kitsch value. I think it's $15, but the frame rate's definitely a problem. And if I was playing this on a television, it would be even worse, I think, or it would feel more egregious on a TV. It feels like a weird, this shouldn't exist product. So I'm cutting it a little bit of slack when I play it on a handheld because the novelty is just so strange.
Huh? That's the bummer.
They just put this on PS4 and Switch this time out. I guess the Xbox version is backwards compatible. So if you own that original game, it will already run on your family of Xboxes.
I think I might have that game on disc on the original Xbox. I might have to dig that out, actually.
Yeah, you could just pop that in there instead, and I bet that would run a little bit better than 15 frames a second, but who knows?
Yeah. I am going to check that out later this week for something, maybe UPF or something like that, because I do love that game. But it's good to hear they're working on it, at least.
Yeah.
That game's much better. Or at least I hope it does. It's been a while. But Danny, you messaged me this morning about something else you want to talk about that I got very excited about, but also like slightly melancholy, but I still really want to talk about it.
It arrived this morning.
You have it in hand.
Ask Iwata book, which was released today, I believe.
Oh, wow.
I've only read it for maybe 45 minutes because it arrived just before we started recording. But I guess the most interesting thing I wanted to read was the preface to understand exactly kind of what it is, because it's obviously been, 6 years from his passing? I think it was 2015.
Sounds right.
I think it was my first year at GameSpot US, or my second year.
Yes,
I remember
2015.
A bunch of stuff around. So obviously, the ex-president of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, he basically, I think, so there's a bunch of stuff in here. There's some interviews with people he worked with, including Shigeru Miyamoto and a bunch of other people at Nintendo. And then there's quotes lifted from him from his like talks he's done and interviews he's done and stuff. But the sort of meat and potatoes of this is, I guess there is a Japanese blog which the editor of which was good friends with him, and they would interview him sort of every once in a while, or he would write articles for them based on inquiries they had, I guess, or whatever. And he famously didn't really talk about himself all that much. When he was promoting the brand, he would, keep personal stuff out of it as much as possible and kind of mostly talk about the products and the company.
Right. In fact, if anything, like, I think this is kind of an inversion of Iwata Asks, right? Which was the first kind of version of this, which is a thing where he was putting like the developers forward and not himself. He was asking their people about their stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I think some of that sort of trickles in here as well. But so apparently most of this is available online on this website, but it's all in Japanese. So they basically, apparently with the blessing of Nintendo and his family, they basically put this together, and this has been translated into English as well. So I think it's being launched globally this week. So yeah, it's an interesting book because it's kind of like he's not somebody who would have written the book himself, or certainly not about himself, but because of the way they formulated these articles over the years on this website, they sort of got him to talk about a lot of his early experiences. So it actually kind of, parts of it at least, the later stuff less so, but part of it reads like a biography because he's talking about himself in the first person for some of it, and then it sort of shifts around. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into it because it's rare. I don't know. Everyone, whenever you talk, anyone who's ever like worked with him, or be it at Nintendo, or people who have worked at other companies that have had to work with him in some respect, the thing that keeps coming across is he was just like an incredibly sort of humble and intelligent and emotionally intelligent kind of dude, but also the type of guy who didn't like give out advice. So it's kind of a cool book where they over enough period of time, as somebody who tries to like go to developers and get them to talk about their own experiences, they like the people who are reluctant to do so, there's not much you can do, but it's like over enough time they squeezed enough out of him to be able to put it into a book. And I think it's a cool project, so I'm excited to read more of it.
Yeah, it's great that this got translated and can be kind of more accessible to more people as well, because that's just that ends up being a really rare look at someone who was running Nintendo. Like that's Nintendo just in general. Like you hear so little about the people at the top of that organization and what their true thoughts are. You can kind of infer it from the work and how they carry themselves as the regime changes kind of flow through them, but like you never quite get it. So this is as close as anyone's going to get to that era, I think, and that's awesome.
It's also one of the things I think that's the time always helps these things a little bit. Like I've jumped around. There's been a couple of news posts as well which have been floating around today. People must have gotten early copies or whatever, which sort of speak to some of like the relationship between Miyamoto and Iwata, for instance, who like Iwata was younger than him but ended up sort of leapfrogging him in the company, which especially in the sort of corporate culture of Japan, you could imagine there be animosity there or whatever. But like they're in the interviews that they have at the back end. I guess I haven't read much of them. It's cool that some of that stuff is coming out, because that's stuff that like would never be said or would be said in much more hushed tones if he was still around, right? But given the fact that he's passed on and this is more about his legacy and so much time has also passed, it's a really like good time to talk to people about that stuff, because they've had the opportunity to ramble it around in their head and create their story of what it was. And then they can sort of, I don't know, they feel more free to express those stories that perhaps in the past they would have kept to themselves. So it's cool. It's and again, I don't like to stereotype when it comes to this sort of stuff. And I have limited experience in this, we've only done a couple of foreign language documentaries, and we've only done one when we were based in Japan. But it is something that is said quite a lot, is that you tend not to get this type of sort of personal stories from Japanese developers so much. You sort of have to like, I think it's more like people here in the West, we speak about our sort of individualistic experience a lot more than perhaps people do in other cultures. But it's cool because I think in this, you're getting more of that than perhaps we're used to. So they didn't, this isn't a promo gig or anything. I bought this, but it's called Ask Iwata, and I don't know. I'm sure there's reviews out soon, but I've read, I don't know, maybe 40 pages, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, it just seems like a really lovely monument to a guy whose influence is honestly like sorely missed on the world, right? Like, it's hard for me to think of anybody who made a more positive, like profoundly positive contribution to games and also just like humanity in this space. Like, I've just never heard a negative word said about him in any context. And yeah, he's up there on my list of people that I am constantly, just very sad is no longer around.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. I really want to check that out.
Yeah, same here.
Let's see. Jason, did you play any more What the Dub?
I didn't play any more What the Dub.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that, because we played that on UPF.
Yeah, that was a nice little surprise. I think busted that up for a Relaxed Friday stream, and it's gonna hit well with the Jackbox crowd. It's a mixed bag between that and like MSG3K, where you're given a video clip, and this is all stuff in like the public domain. So like all the stuff that you would see on like riff tracks nowadays, and
a lot of very old films.
Yes, there was a recognizable one. Like I saw Night of the Living Dead. That's in the public domain now. I was surprised to see that. Regardless, so they'll give you a video clip. So it's like a kind of an A/B conversation. Typically, it'll start out with, "Well, I would ask you to come upstairs with me," and then they mute the rest of it. And you've got to type in on your phone what the response would be. And in my case, I wrote, "Well, but we're all full of assholes with hats." And after you type this stuff out, it'll play everybody's clip with like a text to speech.
Yeah, that's what makes it work.
Yeah, otherwise just reading it is less impact for sure.
It's got text to speech that's like pretty good, but not too good, which is just like right in that sweet spot of it sounds really stupid most of the time. Exactly. And there's a ton of sound effects which are not really that obvious in the UI, so like it took us a while to notice that, but like you could pop a whole list of sound effects and insert them in the middle, so there's like beeps and like baby crying and burps and all kinds of dumb shit. Like it's like, I don't want to be too dismissive, but we went into it and I was just like, man, this is some Jackbox knockoff. Like it really just has that look and feel, and the room invite codes, it's all there. It's just that. But like we got into it and I was like, they really carved out like a unique identity for that thing. Like it works better than you might think.
Yeah, it's its own unique game for sure. But it definitely isn't in that mold. Absolutely. But it's only the one game included with it. You can choose anywhere from like 5 to 10 rounds. And they've got neat little title cards in the beginning of it's a nice visual treatment. It's not bad. And it's only like $7 or $8, I think. And it's available all over the place, Switch, PC, the Xbox and the PlayStations. So yeah, check it out if you're
what do you think the sweet spot style of game? What do you think the sweet spot is for like the amount of people? Because I know some of those Jackbox ones kind of work best with 4, and other ones you can get away with 2.
4, is that right? It was me, you, Alex.
We had 4.
I think that was that seemed about right.
Yeah.
4 or 5, probably.
And the clips are short enough to that, even if you hear them repeatedly, like if you had 4, 5, 6 people, they're short enough to where you don't get sick of it. We didn't get any repeating clips or anything. I watched another playthrough on YouTube later, and I didn't recognize any of those clips either. So they said on their store page that there's like 300 plus clips.
Cool.
But yeah, those are nice little. Because I didn't get a chance to play it because you need at least 3 people or something like that to even begin the game. I think 2 or 3. It's multiplayer only. And so, we just gave it a shot. Seemed to work out.
That sounds exciting. That's because when I was reading a description of it a couple of days ago, and like I wasn't quite sure how it worked. Like the description didn't say anything about the phone or anything like that. So I thought it was going to be like a you're in the movies, like microphone or camera game or something like that, where you're just going to like stand in the weird cutout and try to act. Right. And I was like, oh, weird that someone's trying to do like a U-Star or whatever whatever it was again. But like hearing that it's like way more Jackbox. I mean, it's kind of in some ways about time we started seeing more of the Jackbox style knocked off, at least the room codes and all other stuff like that. That tech works so well that for this type of game, of course.
It's cool. Kind of wild they didn't get one during the pandemic. Like it seems like maybe that would have been a prime Jackbox time.
Oh, don't worry. There's still plenty left.
I get, the text-to-speech stuff works really well. And there was the rapping game in that one. Remember with the T-shirts, was it?
Yes.
Oh, the rap battle one. Yeah.
What's the rap? I cannot remember the name of the rap one, but I think the rap one is like the second best Jackbox after the TKO. Those are the 2 for me for sure.
I freeze up during that so bad. Oh God. Oh,
the
geez.
PowerPoint-ish looking one was kind of fun when we did that quick look, but I could see that getting old really fast.
Yeah, some of them have like a visual treatment that's almost too strong. That's like kind of off-putting or something. That one just felt like, it felt like work or something. I don't think I played many games of that one.
Jeff, how strongly do you feel about NGU Industries before we go to break?
It's it's from the makers of NGU Idle. It's free. It's on Steam. It's an idle game that has kind of a factory component to it, like maybe like a Factorio, but in the context of you're a tile-based. You get to have a tile-based look at an island, and basically you are plopping down different resource generators to build different items, to then build different items. So there's like a tech tree of sorts of different tiers of materials that you're using to eventually make enough things to unlock think juice, which you use to buy research, which makes it so you generate things more quickly so that you can have fewer spaces on your island taken up by mining ore and leave more room to generate other things. And it's this big stack of insane like tech trees of materials and lists of things that you're building and building and building. It's early access, and I think it's got a ways to go. NGU Idle, it got like crazy deep and has its own sense of humor to it that's really kooky and wild. And so this probably has a ways to go. But the tutorial island is called Tutorial Island, and then the second island is just like you unlock a flesh world, and it's just like everything's made of flesh, and suddenly you're mining bone ore, and that's that game. It's pretty crazy. It's free, and I give it a look if you're into it. I don't think it's quite as good as NGU Idle was just yet, but it is in early access. So I suspect they will iterate. The developer will iterate on it quite a bit.
Are they monetizing it yet?
Yeah, you can put some money into it to unlock some pretty nominal upgrades. It didn't look like anything that was too. You can get your name in the game too and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's interesting, and it made me think like maybe I should just be playing Factorio or Satisfactory or something like that, and really just go whole hog. But I'm just too scared. This I can set it up so it's doing some mining and then walk away and then come back and go like, I got all this bone juice now or whatever I'm trying to get. And
yeah, no, those are the opposite of idle games. There is no downtime in those games.
Yeah, for sure.
You never stop building. All right. Last thing for the break, I don't really have a ton to say about Dwarf Romantic other than it sure is relaxing. And also, no one should ever let me be a railroad engineer. Because
why not?
Man, you can make some really dumb looking railroads in that game. Like I ended up with a figure 8 at one point. I ended just a literal figure 8 of railroad going nowhere. It's just like, what is this? You guys talked about it last week, right? I don't know if we need to get
a little bit. Yeah.
It seems very pleasant though. Like it's just a puzzle game, right? Like you're just trying to maximize score and the number of turns you have. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the most like low stakes puzzle game ever though, because I never feel like I'm like whenever I lose, I'm like, I guess I would have liked to keep going, but I'll just start another one. Like I know there's like some sort of loop for unlocking special, pieces, I guess, whatever tiles, I guess they should be. But
I got a
like
boat.
it's just exactly. Like, but that's it's not like you're farming to get the next water station or whatever weird beautiful Germanic icon they give you.
It just looks and sounds like it's just pleasant, It's like I'm just gonna let it idle on my monitor.
All right, now you got my attention.
It's like it's one of those games that like the like subgenre of game that's like this would be a nice screensaver. Like it's one of those
for sure. For sure.
It's almost I know it's early access, but I think the one thing I said last week is it's a shame you can't like save your ending thing or like you fail but like keep playing or take a screenshot of it or something.
It does have it's not in yet, but there is an option for creative mode that says coming soon because it is early access.
Oh, cool.
But so it seems like they are building toward just open-ended, kind of just do what you feel.
That'd be perfect. It's like I feel like this town builder thing is like there's another one. I forget the name of it. It came out last year, and it's very very similar in concept. It's like an ocean, and then it's
not Islanders, is it?
No, it's not, and that's another one. So this one is, I think it's called Townscape or something. You're basically creating like they almost look like Danish fjord sort of villages, but it's just out on the ocean. And in that one, you just create as much as you want. You can create them Townscaper.
Wow, that looks cool as hell.
It's gorgeous and it's very similar.
It's a bunch of houses on stilts in the middle of the water, man. That sounds good.
And I think, if I remember correctly, like that's basically just a creative mode. Like the game is making beautiful towns. So this is like has a similar kind of vibe. But yeah, I think a creative mode would kind of fix the 4 or 5 things I wish that the game did. If you could just do that, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it seems like there's some spots where the kind of iconography is not super clear about what's going on. It's like I'll try to plop some houses down next to some other houses, and it just has like a fat X icon. Like It still lets you do it, but I'm not quite sure. Am I just losing out on points there? I don't know why those houses can't go next to those other houses. Like it's a little obscure about some of that stuff, but it seems cool.
Yeah.
I like things that are cool. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what's cool? Breaks.
Yeah.
That's what
Cool.
they say.
All right, let's do it.
Take a break. Let's take a cool break.
Uh,
And then come right back.
Now more than ever, it's critical to take care of yourself and avoid unnecessary trips to the doctor and masseuse. Social distancing is having an effect on everything these days, and nothing is more important right now than keeping your body healthy and pain-free. So if you're sitting at home suffering from aches and pains from arthritis, backaches, muscle soreness, or joint pain, and want to try a drug-free solution, then you owe it to yourself to try the product you're probably hearing about across so many podcasts. That's right. It's CryoFreeze CBD Pain Relief Roll-On. It's an all-natural topical pain reliever that instantly ices out the pain with a 1-2 punch of super cold menthol and hemp CBD. Simply roll CryoFreeze onto your back, neck, hands, and any other painful areas to help block the pain, reduce inflammation, and improve muscle and joint flexibility. CryoFreeze contains 10 powerful ingredients that combine to provide a powerhouse dose of relief, which can last up to 8 hours, much longer than any other roll-on. Try CryoFreeze today and learn why so many people have rated it 5 stars and have written so many letters thanking Omax for the life-changing relief they are getting from this product. Omax is offering listeners 20% off a 1-month supply of Omax CryoFreeze. This discount also applies toward any product site-wide. Just go to omaxhealth.com today and enter code BOMB. That's omaxhealth.com and enter code BOMB to get 20% off Omax CryoFreeze and site-wide.
News. I've got a bunch of it here. How does everybody feel about that?
Give me the news.
I like being informed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a fat
I'm
stack.
here to tell you about how I feel about this
All right.
news in here.
All right. Well,
In here.
rev up the take machine.
Game journos react.
Right.
Kickstart my heart, and then
I played the music for myself. I didn't realize it didn't go out to you guys.
What do you think? That's okay.
Thank you.
We felt it in our hearts. What do you think?
Your
Whoa!
Yeah.
I was about to ask, what do you think Vince Neil has to say about this ongoing strife within Sony's first-party development scene?
he's really busted up about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Yeah,
I'm sure
no,
he
it's
feels great remorse, I bet.
not since his trailer on the set of The Adventures of Ford Fairlane wasn't up to snuff has he been this distraught over something that's happened to him. It's
Not that fatal auto accident, huh? It was the trailer that really did it.
yeah, it was
Yeah, I get it, Vince. Okay. Friday morning started with another Schreier drop, shall we call it, at Bloomberg.
Schreier fire. I don't know.
There you go. Yes,
Good.
yes.
Schreier alarm.
Out of
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
yes,
My new podcast, Schreier Escape. No,
out of out of the frying pan into the Schreier.
Oh God, this is good.
Subscribe to my OnlyPans.
He definitely set the PlayStation fan base aflame yet
On
again.
Schreier.
Yes, exactly.
These also all work for me, so keep going because
That's right, man.
This certainly doesn't rhyme with anything, but add a
million
frying
of them.
pan into the O'Dwyer feels good. Keep going.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Okay. That's
man.
We'll just but that's totally different. Just keep that one in
It
your
could
back pocket.
My dating app. It's
That's
top
right.
line.
Have you been on
All
a
right.
boat before?
It's not going to play for the.
we've got you pegged.
Whoa!
Well,
I don't put that on my
no,
dating app.
Sony. No,
Okay.
Bloomberg. It's one of my one free articles.
Speaking of, all right. So the headline of this story is Sony's obsession with blockbusters is stirring unrest within PlayStation Empire. This is basically following in the wake of the closure of Japan Studio and the just kind of ongoing narrative that Sony is really pivoting toward super mainstream blockbuster games at the expense of kind of everything else.
Yeah.
And
I think that's my main reaction to this is, yeah, you see it.
Yeah.
But the details here about this visual arts service group, which was largely comprised of people looking to kind of close out games or kind of roll onto projects to help them as needed.
It's kind of a finishing group, I guess.
Yeah, that they got their own project as
a remake.
Like, so
they kind of formed this like a Skunkworks team themselves. There are basically two parallel kind of narratives in here that support this overall theme. So yeah, they formed a team kind of on their own because they wanted to, stop helping other developers ship their games and make their own game instead.
Yeah.
And the project they decided to work on and pitch to Sony in like prototype form was a remake of The Last of Us. 2013's The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Just saw a sequel last year. Like not an old game, a game that got an HD remaster on the PS4 itself, right?
Well, it sounds like their first plans were to remake the first Uncharted, but that didn't pan out for reasons that, for some of the same reasons why a Final Fantasy VII remake took forever, because those assets are so old that it's a lot of work to bring them up to modern standards, where The Last of Us is much more recent and thus potentially less work to kind of bring it up to the level of a PlayStation 5 game.
Right, but like kind of the way the Schreier lays the stuff out is that every step of the way you see their decision making process being guided by what is the cheapest thing we could make that would have the biggest possible sales impact, because that's the only way they aren't just going to shut this down.
Right,
and so
yeah, because like a remake of the first Uncharted would actually be kind of interesting if you really sat down and rethought it a lot. I think that's something that I would be at least like somewhat interested in. But you're right, like they just like Last of Us has already been kind of re-released and remastered. They call it remastered, right? Is that what it was? Last of Us remastered?
I believe that's right.
PS1. Yeah.
4?
That's four.
It seems like if you, I don't know. I've got my grievances here, maybe with some of this stuff. So maybe we can get into it after you talk more.
Sure. So the ending of that story is essentially that they got behind this prototype of a remake of The Last of Us 1, and Sony didn't really seem super interested and did not give them any resources to build that team out. And then once they finally did take notice of it, they transferred ownership of it to Naughty Dog proper. And so a lot of the people who conceived of the project felt like it had been taken away from them, and they have since moved on from the company or generally just abandoned the idea. So like, here is now a remake of a not that old game that is back under the roof of the company that made it in the first place. The other aspect of the story is about Sony Bend, which made Days Gone, which gets into kind of what the pitch process was for a sequel to that game, where they had a pretty ambitious pitch for a Days Gone 2 that Sony pretty flatly shut down, and instead split Bend into two teams, one of which was assisting Naughty Dog with a multiplayer game, the other of which I believe was in fact working at this. There's so many details; it's really hard to keep track of this. They were in fact remaking it was a new Uncharted game, not a remake of Uncharted. So, sorry, I know that was a mess. They were with two teams under one roof. They were going to make a new Uncharted game, like under kind of Naughty Dog's auspices, and also help them with a multiplayer game, which is not detailed in this story. So,
yeah, I guess I look at this, and to me, the only part of this that I look at and go like, well, they shouldn't do that, is the part where they gave a Last of Us remake to Naughty Dog instead of just saying, "Nah, we're good."
Right. Yes. The story doesn't say anywhere that project has been killed.
Right. So the idea that might be what a part of Naughty Dog is working on, and maybe it makes sense for them to do a smaller project before they go and take on their next big thing or something, or they've got people that can peel off and do that while they're in pre-production on the next big thing, so it kind of just works out to keep people busy. But whatever. Like, of course, I'm going to say this because I'm the person who doesn't really like The Last of Us, but I just feel like that is just the most empty ass project that you could like have going right now. Is unless it's a whole thing of like, hey, we're going to kind of remake it, but it's really kind of meant to be in line with like what the movie or whatever they're doing. Like, hey, we're going to remake these characters to look like
HBO series. Yeah, like
the
that's part
HBO
of the
series,
question.
or yeah.
Like they flat out did that to the Peter Parker character in their Spider-Man games, is like straight up turned him into Tom Holland.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah,
know.
so if they did that with likenesses and all that other stuff, like maybe that's some interesting little thing, or maybe that's a wrinkle to this that you could go like, okay, I guess I see why you might do this as part of this larger push into getting The Last of Us ready, especially if The Last of Us series is going to be kind of touching on or detailing or playing off of the events of that first game, having an easier way or a more inviting way for people to play that game again. I could see someone making that pitch and someone will like, sure. Like, I don't think I would do that, but like, I guess I see like what wheels might turn that would lead to that project existing or continuing to exist. But the rest of it, like a sequel to Days Gone, I just don't think, even if that IP did okay, I think this story does say that Days Gone 1 was a profitable project. You know, it's not one of Sony's big marquee franchises. I would probably rather them start over with something else and do something else ambitious than do that. But it sounds like they're not even getting to do that. Yeah. So
no, it sounds like they that is tucked in here that they did finally free themselves of this new Uncharted project, and they are in fact working on an original IP now.
Okay, good.
But which is kind of a bright spot in all of this, I guess. But
which also Days Gone was like. That studio, it's been a while since Siphon Filter came out. You know what I mean? Like that studio was a support studio for other Sony studios for a long time. And Days Gone was, I think it was like a 6-year development cycle. So that like, it's funny that one was kind of in this story with the narrative being that like maybe this new Sony isn't so much into greenlighting projects for these independent studios, but that's basically what Days Gone was. Like it was an opportunity for that studio that had been doing those games to make their own IP. And it always, like, outside of the quality of that game, like it seems like it found an audience. I don't think it was a huge blockbuster by any means. It also had a pretty significant marketing push around the time it came out, but it always felt a little bit weird that the support team for a lot of Naughty Dog stuff was doing an open world zombie survival horror sort of game set in America, and then, you know what I mean, it just felt like for Sony's, you know, product line, it seemed like a little bit too close to The Last of Us already.
Yeah, if you're looking at it from like a portfolio strategy perspective, it like, how do you differentiate those two games in the marketplace? I mean, obviously they're different, right? They're not, you know,
yes,
the Naughty Dog game was way more like, hey, here's this like more personal story. Like Days Gone was like trading off of, what if we put 1 billion freakers in one environment and let you ride a motorcycle? And not to say it didn't have a story, but like they were kind of trading off of scale in a way that The Last of Us was never about. And
yeah, that
but
reveal,
to a larger,
about the horde.
Yeah, but to a larger audience, a larger mainstream audience, trying to inform them as to why Days Gone exists and should matter at a time when you're like actually thinking, well, we want to save our big marketing push for the Last of Us sequel because we know that that's going to be super big and we don't want to confuse people and all that. Like, it just feels like something that shouldn't have happened. Eventually those games, I feel like, got pushed far enough apart by delays that it felt different. But I think there was a while there pre-delays that they were in a very similar launch window also, or even like, you know, just pre-release preview window where you're like, why are we talking about both these games at the same time? How does this happen? Why would this happen? And so, it's understandable why Days Gone just didn't quite get the push that maybe it deserved. But also, I didn't play a ton of Days Gone, but was not super into it. And so, of course, they're not going to make a Days Gone 2. That doesn't seem like a big revelation here. That seems like a thing where you look at it and go like, yeah, that's probably move on to something else. Even if you're going to give them the autonomy, like it sounds like they are, to try to do something else. You know, use some of those ideas for a different setting and try to carve out something else, because the zombie like ballad, they've already checked that box, and you kind of don't need that. I think the larger story. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So profitability is also like a metric that should not necessarily be used when we're talking about sequel. Like, there are plenty of games that don't sell overly well that then drive sentiment that will get a sequel. What you often happen with games, especially like new IPs that are marketed high, is that they probably will install very high, but you mightn't have the positive sentiment required. In fact, you might have the inverse. If expectation isn't met, and this game didn't do particularly well critically, it did kind of fine, I think. But if expectations are lofty and they're not met, which may have been the case with the mainstream audience with this game, I don't know, then when they look at that, a sequel is a worse idea, because it means that you've actually like sort of, you know, cannibalized the audience for the game already almost. So like, just because a game is profitable doesn't necessarily mean that it's the type of game that should get a sequel. And then you have games that maybe aren't as profitable that do get sequels, and they get more people on board because of that sort of like cult classic thing, or maybe positive sentiment within the audience.
Yeah. And Last of Us, still exists, right? And it sounds like they'll remake the first one at some point. So like in a world where Sony still has that as part of their portfolio, even if there's no imminent release, going and doing Days Gone 2 again just feels like you're creating that confusion all over again. I mean, my hope would be that like someone sitting on high looking at what all the studios are doing is looking at that and go like, these are all really interesting ideas, but how about you sever it from the Days Gone IP and try to create something different? Like go back to the drawing board on the setting and the zombie stuff, and like create this ambitious game, but maybe make it sci-fi, because we don't have enough of those, or we don't have a serious sci-fi, or we don't have a really just kind of look at that aspect of this and try to figure out a different angle.
Do you think that's what's going on here?
Let me take stock here real fast. Zombies, cars, Lombaxes,
sci-fi. Don't forget about Horizon.
Yeah.
Yes. Future dinosaur robots.
Mm-hmm.
Returnal, whatever that.
Yeah. That's just sci-fi, I guess. Dark sci-fi, maybe.
Ticking all the boxes in the portfolio here.
So
Souls, maybe we return to Hot Souls.
That cat game.
There you go.
Yeah.
Parappa 3 is an open world.
Yes, that's what's
Vib ribbon, baby. 4K,
yes, that's right. Yes,
8K.
Yeah, but I think that's what's happening?
Like Herman Hulst is in now a couple of years, right? What's the first thing like a new lead does? There's going to be a lot of like, I'm not saying this, right? But when I read this article, I always like to like try and figure out what the other side of the story is, because especially when you people like, and I'm not inferring, and I love Jason's work, of course, he's best in the biz, but it's easy to get people to shit talk companies when they've left, because like, hey, my great idea didn't get picked up, right?
Right.
They've already got a pinch hitter studio for remakes who have already remade old Naughty Dog games, and that's Bluepoint. They did the Uncharted collection like 6 years ago, right? So that was the first 3 games, I think. And obviously Demon's Souls has done really well for them as well. And then the same thing's happening in Sony Japan, right? Where people are sort of like, there's a lot of people leaving Sony Japan. Obviously Gavin Moore left, I think, a couple of weeks back. He'd been there for like 17 years or something. But also like maybe there's a restructure going on there, because Team Asobi has just like knocked out of the park 3 games in a row, and they seem like they're maybe more of the development muscle in that studio. Like Japan studio is kind of a bit of a production house, they sort of like they're puppeteers as much as they are devs, right? So like maybe that's what's going on over there. But I do wonder, like, this is the period when a new worldwide lead comes in where they shake the cobwebs out. And I'm not saying that's what's going on, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are certain like projects that are getting like shifted, or certain leads who have been there for a while who are sort of moving on, or being their projects aren't getting greenlit whereas they were before. I don't know, something like that. It feels like nothing about this seems like maybe strategically incorrect, and like the world isn't a meritocracy, but like business kind of is, at least like this type of like commercial, like selling products, like they want to make the games that will sell, right? And I'm not saying like, I'm not here protecting Sony or anything, but like I don't necessarily see this big sea change to making big blockbuster games. We're still getting, we still got Astro's Playroom out of this. We're still getting like, what was that Racing All Stars thing we were talking about last month?
Destruction All Stars,
yeah, Destruction All Stars. So like these games are still coming out. It's just like we're not getting Days Gone 2. We're not getting a remake of the first Last of Us. Like,
or maybe we are. Hopefully not. I don't. But
if the end result is we're getting new interesting games instead of those games, then like that sounds better. Then that doesn't sound like them chasing money. That sounds like them. So I don't know.
And I think the business has changed since a lot of that stuff was put in place. Like I think the Japan studio is a great example of like, when we went down the list of like what are the games that Japan Studios' name has been on, a lot of them had external developers, so they were kind of sitting in the middle of like, oh, they are certainly doing very real work, but by and large, those are thought of like external studios that have internal assistants and production and all that sort of stuff that are then published by Sony. Like that part of the business has changed in a few different ways, and it sounds like that's something that could happen worldwide. It doesn't necessarily have to happen out of Japan studio. It could happen on a per territory basis, and it might not need a name because you don't need that middleman name in there. It's like, hey, this came from Sony Interactive Entertainment. It was developed by Nana Onsha. Done. Like you don't have to have the Japan studio name in there. It doesn't really carry a lot of weight in a mainstream sense. And even then, when you really break it down, like the Japan studio games I liked most came from specific developers. Right. And so I think that's part of it that you look at and go like, well, the business has changed. And I think if you look at indie development these days and how self-publishing exists now in a way that didn't when Japan Studio came about, like those games maybe are getting made in different ways and are getting funded in different ways. And I think Sony can contribute to that process in different ways with their third-party team, or if they want to still do some publishing, that maybe you don't need to have all of that emanate from Japan. So I think with that in mind, and the way that the smaller games and the way they are published and made have changed, I think it makes sense in a way for Sony to focus on the top tier, super big first party projects, because those are the things that sell well for them. The attach rate is such and such, and they are moving consoles with that stuff, which is better for even the third parties that are publishing on that platform if they can grow that install base. If you are a person inside of Sony that wants to make or work with a smaller game, like, we just talked about Echo Chrome is about to be delisted, and, like the smaller games that make up a rich part of Sony's legacy, especially coming from Japan, then you're bummed because this is absolutely a shift for them. I just feel like it's a sensible one, and it's one where the people that get out, ideally they stay in games. Ideally they are going to go start studios of their own and be like, now I'm unfettered and now I don't have to worry about, hey, I'm, entering Uncharted's release window and I have to push my game back. Like I can do what I want when I want and go find funding somewhere else. And hopefully, hopefully the people that want to make games like that are still able to. I feel like there's a really rich network of, it's like those games are getting made, just not necessarily being published by Sony. So yeah.
When I read the tea leaves on this a little bit, and in recent months, we've interviewed a bunch of Sony people in the past, Gorilla and a couple of other spots, and I've had interactions with Japan Studios and Asobi and some other folks. When I look at this, to me, what Sony appear to be doing, and again, I could be wrong, is it's kind of the type of distributed development that like larger developers are having to do. It's kind of like the Ubisoft model, right? Where you have teams all around the world. These projects are just getting too big. Like even the Demon's Souls remake was not just run by, Blue Point and Austin. You had multiple Sony studios around the world helping with that. Now, some studios are, experts in this, experts in this, and experts in this. Like that's kind of the future for a lot of these big companies. And I suspect that when you're making those types of games, like obviously the cost is way higher, but there's going to be certain studios who sort of like got a better track record than others. Maybe they're more talent in there. Maybe they've just had more goes at it. Maybe they've had more support. For whatever reason, they're sort of at the top of the pecking order, right? And of course, Naughty Dog's right there, right? For whatever reason, of course, they're one of the pinch hitters. So are Gorilla. There's a couple of ones there. So I suspect what it looks like to me, at least, because Sony has studios everywhere. They never hear, like London, and like they've development studios all over the place.
Yeah, I had never heard of God. What was the name of this group again? The Visual Arts Service Group. Like I didn't even know that existed until this story.
Yeah, San Diego's full of studios that do stuff as well that like nobody know, like specifically there that do a lot of like rendering stuff that like help on games that people don't necessarily know about. But so sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but so what I suspect, what it looks like to me a little bit is that like some of the folks who are maybe like on that trajectory to like be there, or which like the B games aren't getting made anymore, maybe. And that perhaps what's going on is that there's sort of like the line is being drawn at like, here are the sort of projects we're doing. And it's maybe disappointing some people and, brightening other people's perspectives. I'm not quite sure, but
I think
when I look at Sony, that's what it looks like more these days.
Yeah, I think it makes Sony's overall output less interesting, but I don't necessarily need those games to come from Sony, and hopefully, again, I think there are a ton of games coming out from a ton of different directions, and if this is the direction Sony's going in, I'm not like too busted up about it, except for the individual IPs of some of those old small games that like I like Parappa. I think it'd be cool to revisit that stuff. I think the quirky early days of PlayStation are worth remembering and continuing forward in some fashion. So, hopefully they find a way to maybe honor some of that outside of just whatever Asobi is doing with Astrobot nostalgia stuff and all that. But yeah.
And that is the way that Ubisoft, I think, especially in recent years, have fallen short, because there was a couple of years there where they did have that sort of internal skunkworks type. Remember all those like indie games that would come out? There was the 2D World War II thing, and like there was a bunch of interesting little games that were coming out of Ubisoft there for a while. And they've sort of all pittered out again, and like you need that, right, to keep talent, to keep people interested. You're never going to have enough teams or enough jobs in senior roles for people to like have their own projects, which is what a lot of people in like that tier of dev want to do, or like people all want forward progress. And I think that's the way in which Ubisoft has sort of like struggled a bit, and maybe a lot to do with the cities they're in, and that the workforces there are pretty people tend to jump around a lot there. So I think that would be my only thing, is that I really, really hope that they figure that out, because not a lot of large studios have managed to figure out a way of having their sort of like mainstream meat, but also having their indie potatoes too.
Interesting times over there for sure. Speaking of interesting times, there's a new PlayStation 5 firmware, which they're characterizing as their first big update. I forget what the exact phrasing is, but
first major system software update rolling out globally tomorrow,
Awesome.
Which I think might actually mean today.
They fixed the store. They fixed sorting. Oh man, it's an amazing thing.
No, they will let you store PlayStation 5 games on external USB drives. You cannot run the games from there, but if you want cold storage for PS5 games, you can copy them there. And as a bonus, they will also patch while they're there.
Yeah, that's something. I think I want to say they only patch when you move them back. Isn't that right? I believe the wording was once you copy them back over, they will update or something. Anyway, yeah, I mean that is a much needed feature. It's not exactly marquee material on your first major update, but it's something they needed.
Games that you transfer or copy back to internal storage will automatically update when applicable.
Okay.
Which, now that you say that, now that I read that sentence, I'm like, I'm actually not sure what the games you transfer or copy back to internal storage. So I mean, transfer, I assume, means transfer off the drive, and copy back means copy back to the drive.
Yeah.
Will automatically update when applicable. You can select which game modes you want to install for select titles that support the option. So it's something for a console with some pretty bad storage issues. That's something.
It's like a tourniquet for a bigger problem.
Yeah, and they have reiterated here that the storage expansion via M2 drives will happen in the future. We are currently working on this feature, and we'll keep you posted with any updates. So no time frame for that. I guess the rumor back when the last time we talked about this was the rumor was summer, but we'll see if that sticks. They've redesigned the
game base,
which will show you your messages and parties and stuff. They've moved to like a tabbed system there between parties and friends. You can pre-download patches, which is preloading patches is a really weird concept, but think about it in terms of like a Call of Duty game has their next season starts on Thursday, and they want to get the patch out to everybody when it's ready, but they don't want to turn the patch on until Thursday. They will let you preload a patch.
Probably helps them on the network side too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Less of a bum rush.
So I don't know. Them classifying it as first major update doesn't really. I don't know that this meets my bar for major update, but it's something.
they put a version number on that? Because like thinking back on the evolution of the PS4, like even that was probably I think like a kind of 4.0-ish, somewhere around there before I really felt like that thing was like, all right, they've really added some stuff to this. This feels very usable now. Like it did take a couple of years before it really got there.
They added a code name to it, and it's Womp Womp.
That's
have they addressed any of the like weird sleep issues or none of that stuff?
Oh wow.
Nope. I have seen no public acknowledgement from them about that stuff recently.
Like early on, I think there was some discussion about patches, and I think it was like software specific like updates that maybe were mitigating some sort of issue there. But I feel like on a system level, I don't think they've ever really acknowledged that problem, which is weird. But it sounds like some people are still having that issue, which
yes, you will definitely still find people talking about having. I mean, in my experience, if you wait long enough, it might just go away. So
great.
I haven't let my PS5 enter rest mode in like a month because I'm just worried it'll happen again. So maybe I should test that out again.
My daughter grabbed the USB drive and unplugged it from my PS5 the other day and came over and handed it to me. It was not on, but it is in rest mode. And she came over and handed it to me, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then I looked and went, "Oh no!" So maybe I'll plug it all back in, and now I'll have months of issues or something. Who can say? But yeah.
Last little piece of news, tangential to Sony, real quick. Deathloop has been delayed again to September 14th.
Delay watch.
Yes. So just know that. That was, we were less than a month away from that, I think.
Yeah.
Or something.
Only Mario Golf can save us now. What else is coming out before the summer?
Ratchet still, as of right now, is supposed to be in early June.
Returnal is pretty soon, right?
Returnal is into the month, I believe.
That was delayed.
April 30th, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not surprised. That those games seem incredibly complex to make. Those immersive... it's maybe not a fully blown immersive sim, but Arcane make complicated games. So
yeah, whatever. I just kind of assume by default that every game is going to get delayed this year at some point.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, then all the better.
Matt, if Mario Golf gets delayed...
What are we going to do?
Done for.
Nintendo did just announce, I think Nintendo has some kind of indie showcase tomorrow. I think they just announced. So, maybe they'll slip in a Mario delay right there. It's like, hey, we're delaying this game. In fact, we're canceling. I don't know if you know this, but Mario died. So we have to come up. This is going to be a Kirby golf game. It's going to come out in 3 years. So
it's got to bury your bad news in a bunch of good news. That's how it works.
Yeah. Oh, they should make a Kirby golf game instead.
Tiger Woods, bring it back.
And spits it out.
Yeah. Let's see. VentureBeat is reporting that Xbox is in talks to sign Kojima Productions' next game, which I feel like is a piece of news and also like the least surprising thing ever.
Yes,
it's a good idea.
Seems like exactly what they should do. If I were Microsoft and I had that much money, I would be all over that.
And if I were Kojima Productions and I was starting to shop around a game, I would be talking to everyone I could that might have a bunch of money to give me to make said game. So
for sure. It's kind of unfortunate how this reporting came about because it was on the back of some bizarre internet conspiracy theory around a game called Abandoned that got announced by a studio called Blue Box Games. And I genuinely don't understand where this started, that a bunch of people took this trailer to be some kind of ARG that was actually the new Kojima game and not actually this game from this working studio of real game developers who are making a game. Like, how does it feel?
Like psyched because it's like raised the profile of their game several notches, or bummed because they're like, oh man.
This trailer is like inviting intrigue, though. It's just a bunch of b-roll of like it's very like minimalist.
Sure, I guess. And maybe like in the rearview mirror way down the line they'll look back and be like, oh wow, that actually really did boost our profile. Like we got a lot more eyeballs in the game. But I feel like in the moment, like I don't know, it just feels kind of degrading to your own work for people to look at it and be like, that's actually just a fake game for some Kojima bait and switch or something. I don't know.
Might be a backlash associated too. Maybe.
Strange situation around that. But anyway, they had to come out and multiple people were like, "No, this is a real game. Come on, come on."
I mean, I think the actual thing that should happen now is that Kojima should get involved with that game in some way.
Sure,
they should put him in it or do something that like
Norman
like
Reedus.
why not? Yeah.
At any rate, yeah, like VentureBeat reported on that situation at the end. They just tacked that on. The biggest piece of evidence I have that Abandoned is not a Kojima joint is that Kojima is in talks with Microsoft about publishing his next game, according to a source familiar with the matter. I cannot confirm if Xbox has closed the deal yet, but my understanding is that Kojima is the focus of a Microsoft plan to tap into Japanese talent. I feel like we've heard that one before several times.
Yeah, that's. I think that's maybe a little. I think both can be true, right? Like Microsoft can want to have an increased focus on Japanese development, and I think that's something they still need. And they can want to sign Kojima's next game, but I don't know that one really gets you the other. Like it's no one game that tips the scale where Japanese development is going to like, oh, we love the Xbox now. We're going to totally just by default make games for it because why wouldn't we? Like it's a longer process with a lot more work involved than just like signing this one game because that's they've done all sorts of stuff with Sega over the years. Like something would have happened by now if that's how easy it was. So whatever.
Yes. Sometimes that gets you the new Kojima game. Sometimes it gets you Blinks the Time Sweeper
from the makers of Balan Wonderworld.
Wait, what?
Is
there actual continuity there? Really?
There's some. Yeah.
Really?
Is Balan in the Blinks verse?
This explains so much.
We can hope. I don't know. Maybe there's an unlockable Blinks suit somewhere in there. We'll have to
just dancing.
Man. Okay. Well, I'm glad I know that now. Let's see. Give me just a second. Pull up the next. Okay. The Council on American Islamic Relations is calling on Microsoft, Sony, and Valve, the owners of Steam, to essentially reject 6 Days in Fallujah from their platforms. They have, if you're not familiar with them, they're kind of one of, if not the biggest sort of Muslim advocacy groups in the U.S., and they have put out a pretty scathing statement that I'll just quote from here. Let me scroll down. Okay. We call on Microsoft, Sony, and Valve to ban their platforms from hosting 6 Days in Fallujah, an Arab murder simulator that would only normalize violence against Muslims in America and around the world. The gaming industry must stop dehumanizing Muslims. Video games like 6 Days in Fallujah only serve to glorify violence that took the lives of hundreds of Iraqi civilians, justify the Iraq War, and reinforce anti-Muslim sentiment at a time when anti-Muslim bigotry continues to threaten human life. So, like, they are really not mincing words on this thing.
Good.
Yeah, and, I think that makes sense when you look at what the developers of the game have said about it and look at how they are presenting the game. I think that's a very natural reaction to this.
Right. Yeah, I think they've gotten out there with their rhetoric about like, oh, we're not trying to glorify the situation, even while they're like admitting some of the uglier parts of it. Which is like exactly what you would do when you were trying to turn this situation into a fun video game.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
It's the more we learn about the development, I don't want to say the developers, but the sort of mentality behind this game, like the more uncomfortable it makes you feel. I feel like yeah, just all the propaganda they put out in this game. I know like all marketing is propaganda, but boy, it's hard to, and the studio's done all this work for the government, and it's just, like the whole thing is just like, ugh. Can we not? Like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a philosophical or like game design conversation to have around like, can you cast the player in a role where they're taking part in things and yet condemn the things they're doing at the same time, right? Like, is that like on some level, like you are inherently giving your own approval to the things you are having the player do, right? And
I think like doing the storytelling work around that to make sure that is being conveyed clearly and all that sort of stuff, I think is probably pretty hard. I'm trying to think about games that, I think like people are bringing up Spec Ops: The Line in in the wake of this. Like that game's come back up a few times.
That is a rare example of a game that did that pretty well, but like it is rare, like that is a very tricky balancing act, I think.
It is also telling the story of the Western perspective still. It's telling a more maybe untold story, but it's not telling the story of the victims in that one either.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And
it is just condemning them a little more directly, but not in the probably not far enough in that sense either.
I mean, another crucial distinction is that game was not casting real people in real events that actually took place like a fairly small number of years ago.
Yes,
this is like a pretty unprecedented situation in my memory. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like I'm trying to think back on other games, other situations where there was an outcry around the actual distribution of a game, and it's always like some like lascivious or like silly or fantastical situation of like, there's like the San Andreas hot coffee stuff.
Yeah.
There's like the Guy game, right? Was another one. I'm trying to think.
Guy game was illegal, straight up. So it's kind of
there was, what was that? I guess the most recent example was that, what was that top-down action game on Steam that was just like a straight-up civilian murder?
Hatred.
Yeah. Right. A Postal 1 knockoff.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like Hatred's, Hatred was all talk. At the end of the day, that game just sucked. Like it's just like not interesting at all. And I think the way they tried to fucking make it super edgy, man, just made it like laughable is not the word. It's just sad. You just look at it and go like, who are you trying to?
Clever marketing.
I guess. But like, I mean, here we are. Like it's memorable enough that we can fucking pull it here in this conversation years later. But like,
right. But the distinction is that in none of those situations were real people involved with the events being depicted in the game. It's like those were all fictional situations, or again, like in some cases, like hot coffee, just kind of ridiculous. Whereas this is this has like extremely relevant real world precedent that real people are going to look at and like,
Yes.
The only one that comes to mind is, do you remember the original Soldier of Fortune? I know, which is like not exactly like a realistic game, but it was based on like he was a real dude and those were real missions he was on, right? There was an outcry post-launch on that because I'm not sure if you remember the game, but like the opening levels was set in New York, right, during a fictional terrorist thing, and you could, if you shot a civilian by accident or intentionally, you get a fail state. But there was one mission that was set in somewhere in the Middle East, I think it was Baghdad, and if you killed civilians, nothing happened. So I remember they actually patched that. There was an outcry, and that was back in 2000 and God knows what, 2002 maybe. I forget when the original Soldier of Fortune.
Yeah, I feel like when Soldier of Fortune comes up, all I remember is like I think it was 2, where you could just like dismember the bodies in a zillion different ways, right?
You could do that in 1 as well, yeah.
Was that also in 1? Okay.
Yeah, you shoot their heads off and their legs off. And,
or there was a game, I can't remember the name of it now, but they were trying to do like weekly updates almost about like, hey, the conflict is happening right now and we're trying to be like part news story, part video game. And they were trying to put scenarios into their game, not in real time, but really trying to process that stuff and get it in there very quickly. And it was more like a milsim, like Arma-esque type of thing is how I remember it being. And I can't remember the name of it now, but it was just like, every week I would get a press release about it and just read it and just go like, what the fucking fuck?
That's wild.
Yeah.
Was it Rainbow Six? Or no, it was Rogue Spear that depicted the invasion of Georgia, right? By Russian.
I think
it was
that's
like set in Tbilisi or something. And then like 4 years later it happened. But obviously that's wrong way around.
Yeah. Someone in chat says comma war, Kama. That is, I believe that is or Kuma. It's Kuma War, actually. Kuma, is that? Yes, an episodic game that recreates real world conflicts in video game format using information culled from news accounts. It came out in 2004 for the PC.
Whoa.
And they apparently did a sequel in 2006. Yeah, so they're trying to do like this very much like ripped from the headlines sort of thing. They recreated the death of Osama bin Laden in that game. Like they very much for a lot of years And it never rose above a certain profile because it didn't sound like it was particularly well made. And the only hook they had was like, it's ripped from the headlines. And they were trying to do it as fast as possible. But like that thing was around for a lot of years being kind of shitty. And so, there's some precedent for that, but like that never, I don't remember that game ever making headlines. I just remember getting press releases about it and just kind of shaking my head and just going like, gross.
Any feelings on whether any of these platform holders respond or take any action or anything, acknowledge this in any way? Like of the three, I feel like Valve is the least likely to give any indication that they noticed.
It opens up a Pandora's box for them, I think. They don't want to start this, I think.
Exactly. I think all three of them would be very careful to open that door of suddenly being put in the position, and they are in this position whether they like it or not, but to be kind of publicly in that position of doing this, I think opens the door for every other game with any kind of objectionable content gets brought to them in a similar fashion, and it becomes, why'd you do this one and not this one? Are you saying that this is not as bad as that, and really creates an unwinnable situation for all of those platform holders in a way that they will probably just hope that this goes away. And I don't think this game doesn't sound like something that would normally rise above the bar that Akuma War or some of these other things would either, because it just seems like kind of a bad idea. But everyone keeps talking about it, and here we are.
Right. Like they are unlikely to take action right up until they're not. Like the outcry reaches a certain intensity. Like things change quickly. But
and I think there's a conversation to be had about it. I don't necessarily mean to say like, oh, everyone should stop talking about it, because I think obviously there is a lot to say about this, and I think what they're doing, is worthy of some outrage. I think the way they're approaching this is pretty abhorrent. But I don't know where that balance lies of like, let this thing come out like a fart in church and go away, versus say like, hey, fucking no, this is not okay. It's a weird line for sure.
Yes, remains to be seen if there will be any movement there. Some court documents have been coming out in this Epic versus Apple litigation that is ongoing, where we've gotten some insight into the losses that Epic is incurring on an annual basis to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars on the Epic Store. And we also have Apple alleging that the Epic Store is not on track to become profitable until, I believe, 2027.
Oh, boy.
Epic, yes. Epic has countered that by saying they are projecting gross profitability by, I believe, 2023. But we also got some interesting, just kind of like facts and figures in here. That, for example, we know how much money Epic has committed to minimum guarantees for all the free games, for the developers, I should say, of all the free games they have been giving away.
Right.
Which is, as of right now, just under 400. I'm sorry, this was just in 2020. Was just under $450 million that they're paying out to the developers of those games. So,
whoa,
large chunks of money they are committing to this.
All of this money, you think, should that store not be a better experience? Does any am I just too?
You would think.
Have we been using Steam too long that it's just like nothing will ever? It's like trying to swap credit cards. You're just never going to do it. Is it the next generation coming up is who they're trying to get? Like all those Fortnite players and get them to buy more?
Yeah, it was definitely like, hey, we've got all these we have all these player accounts for Fortnite. Let's try to sell them some other stuff. And I think that's the part to me is like, you look at how much money they're losing and how much money they're spending to try to grow this store. And at no point, or that's not fair, but it really doesn't look like they're prioritizing making that store significantly better. And I think that's crazy. Like Steam, like forget about Steam and its features, because Steam has come a long way, and Steam was a fucking mess for a long time. In some ways, it still is. But like just on its own merits, the Epic Store just feels like it's just missing a lot of basic features. including, as we mentioned about Outriders, letting me play Outriders. That would be a nice feature to have. I can install it, and it just doesn't seem to go. Someone sent me a message saying I need to rename one of the intro movie files, and that maybe that will work.
I heard about that one.
That's just silly. Come on.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'll try that.
It could work, but still.
It could work. I'll try it. But like whatever, like Epic is doing just fine. This doesn't mean that Epic is losing a ton of money. It means that they are investing a lot of money in building a store. And
I mean, they flat out mentioned in here that they're drawing capital to fund this from a kind of vague other parts of the business.
Yes, called Fortnite.
Yes, exactly.
Unreal Tournament.
Yeah, that's right. Remember the real moneymaker, Unreal Tournament. So I think what they're doing, well, I don't know, like, do you get a sense of like, why is Apple pointing this out? Are they trying to say like, these guys suck, they don't know how a store is supposed to be run? Like how is this relevant to the Apple Epic conversation, I guess? Like that's kind of are they trying to allege that
antitrust or something?
Yeah, that they're behaving in an anti-competitive way by running their store this way, or
like they're doing the same thing, okay,
I guess they've loaded its marketing user acquisition cost to gain market share. They say that the transaction fee of 12% is sufficient to cover the cost of running it. But so it's just giving away all those free games is making them lose money. But like they're getting more users in that are hopefully buying some games here and there. At least they would hope. And that will eventually pan out for them. And I suspect it will. I don't know. They're giving away a lot of free games.
I would like to think that there are people who are good at money who are making those decisions, and it's all working out.
Or they're running some weird holy war against other stores, and they just want to destroy Steam's grip on something. And if it takes them down along the way, who cares? Tim Sweeney's just having a good time.
Like Steam's not going anywhere, right? Like
no, Steam's not going anywhere.
No, there's a lot of people playing PC games right now. You can all have a piece of the pie.
I haven't. I'm sitting here on the Epic Store Trello board, which I haven't taken a look at in a while. And I will say it is not as busy as it used to be. It seems like they are churning through some features finally. The recently shipped column is a lot longer than the up next and the future development columns. I'll put it that way.
What's in it?
Seems like they're getting there. So I mean, I honestly, like the thing that stands out to me most on the future development column is user reviews. And like, granted, there are problems around user reviews that are not just like raw implementation, like controlling like backlash and like kind of hate campaigns and like adjusting for social factors that bias that kind of user contributed stuff is not the easiest thing in the world. But still, like, to not have any kind of user rating system in your store 2.5 years after it launched is.
I just don't think they need it.
I don't know. I still see that cited as one of the things that people miss the most from the store.
But I think like that's something that if they're going to do that, I think they need to try to come up with a novel approach to try to nullify some of the problems with user reviews that you see across websites like Metacritic and stuff like Steam and places where you just see this stuff getting bombed and treated not for its intended purpose. And I think unless Epic can find a way to figure that out, then they shouldn't just roll out the basic implementation of it. There's no value there. So unless they can find a good approach for that, then I would keep pushing that one back. And instead focus on why I get 16 to 20 friend requests every couple of days from players I've never heard of. And are they spam? I got one from an account that just said Don Mustard. And I'm like, is that really Donald Mustard? I don't know. I have no way of verifying who this person is because it doesn't. In some cases, they would list like, here's their PlayStation name. And you might be able to infer who they are that way. But it just like that stuff isn't showing because they redid the friends list stuff in a way that is way less useful. And it's just. It's still just not where it needs to be.
Donald Mustard is such a nice guy. I hope he is not like the target of a lot of Fortnite community ire.
I feel like everyone is, right? And anyone online. I mean, I feel like if I were working on Fortnite, I would be off of social media completely because like, or any, like you see it with any sufficiently large game developer or platform holder or anything like that, where, go look at Ed Boon's mentions.
Right, dude. I feel so sorry for Ed every time I look at his mention. Like, he can't talk about anything on Twitter without a million people just screaming at him about the pit or.
Yeah, or I can't believe you did this to Jade, or
yes,
where's Injustice 3, or like all that sort of stuff. Like, the Fortnite stuff was even crazier. Like, looking at, like, I mean, Nick Chester was doing like PR and not working on Fortnite direct. I mean, like, not developing Fortnite actively per se. And even his stuff was just like free V-Buck spam and people making weird demands and all this other stuff. You're like, why? What the hell? Like, what is wrong with people that they think that this is a way to get anything done or get their voices heard or like anything? I just don't understand why anyone would have that approach to social media of just like, I'm going to find anyone I can who works on this game and make sure they know that they need to fix this fucking thing. They need to nerf this gun. What the fuck is wrong with that? Like, I don't get it. Like, it's so not the way to get anything done. It's just so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah. If anything, it is very counterproductive because nobody can withstand that onslaught forever.
Yeah.
Like, you were just pushing people out of that space the more you expose them to that sort of thing. Anyway. Yes, I am no legal analyst. I wish I could give more insight on the nuance of what's coming out of this trial, but at least some interesting facts and figures about the losses they are taking there. Quick update on the new BioShock. A whole bunch of job postings have given some more tidbits about what that might be about. Ooh. Sounds like it's open world. That's the big one that has come out of a posting for a writer on the game that reads in part, "We're hoping to find someone who can weave impactful, character-driven stories in an open-world setting."
I guess it was either going to, go that way, or it was going to be another very focused led experience. I'm not that surprised. You know what I mean? Like that. Like anyone who's any studio that was making that type of game that's done a new IP has done an open world thing, and you can still tell good stories in open world. It's just they're slightly less.
I think it's a lot harder to do that, to be as laser focused. It's not as procedural.
Requires much bigger.
I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, it seems like maybe a better venue for the kind of like systemic emergent sort of combat that series always kind of felt like it was chasing, but never quite getting to. With a mix, I mean, literally mixing and matching powers and weapons in your own hands, and like enemies being able to make use of a lot of the same stuff. They kind of touch on some of that. So I've got this Video Games Chronicle story in front of me where they did a bunch of digging in a lot of these job listings, and they have a listing for an AI programmer here that they quote from, where they say they're looking for somebody to, quote, flesh out the designs and finalize the implementations for an urban crowd system and the systemic tribal ecology of a sometimes hostile AI. Which is a pretty verbose way of describing like what sounds like kind of an interesting combat model if they, if they are able to like really come up with a bunch of interesting systems that interlock and interact in interesting ways in an open setting, that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of what I think they were trying with Infinite, but the Vox Pop
like I remember,
way more.
And I remember a lot of those early combat demos that they did. They were all sky hooking back and forth and all the kind of intermixing, NPC behaviors and stuff like that. And it felt like the final game was a lot more of a stock standard first-person shooter with some zappy powers, and didn't quite get where they were going with that stuff. So,
there's another bit here for a job posting for a senior world designer that says they're looking for someone to combine handcrafted set pieces with emerging AI behavior to create a living world that offers players variety at every step of the game. So, I think, do you end up with something like a Rage 1 here, where you've got these very defined handcrafted levels? They're like or Gears 5, it does this the same way, where you've got like the open world that is one thing, and then you're very much transitioning to like, I'm walking into this building now, and now this is a level, and it is very set piecey, it is very handcrafted, it is very touched by human hands on every bit of it, and then you get out and maybe it's less of that. I think that sort of stuff can work.
Yeah, but mechanically, this sounds like a direction for that franchise for sure. Assuming they can pull it off. I mean, my bigger question just still remains like, what the hell is that game narratively?
Yeah, totally. I think the BioShock Infinite seemed like it was going out of its way to make it really tricky to make another BioShock have stakes. And
yeah, if
I
they
appreciated that about it.
Yeah.
If they take the Mad Libs from the end of BioShock Infinite and just like plug other nouns into that framework, like I don't know that that's it. You know,
what if we climb a lighthouse and then you look around from the top of the lighthouse and it fills in the map, and then
there's like you see like 3 other lighthouses off in the distance, and what if you went all the way over there and then did the same thing again 3 or 4 more times?
There you go. There you go.
Oh, I don't know.
Would you kindly show me some objective markers?
I am the last person clamoring for another BioShock, but at least as an experiment, I'm curious to see what they do with it.
I want a new BioShock. Yeah. I loved Infinite. That game was so
yeah, I did too.
I was way into it. I don't know. I know people came down on it, but that game was rad. BioShock 2 had some great moments too. Minerva's Den.
I never did get around to playing 2, but I feel like people look back on 2 more fondly than it seemed like they received it at the time.
Yeah,
I think
that's
yes,
fair.
Minerva's
expectation changed. Yeah.
I think playing Minerva's Den and it being as good as it was is kind of why I didn't go back to 2. I was like, there's no way the base game is better than that.
2 was weird. The combat, like it just 2 just felt like it didn't get the balance of the first game quite right, and didn't really pursue, or if it was pursuing the same goal as BioShock 1, I don't think they achieved it nearly as well, where it just felt like we put a bunch of combat in this later on, and it feels a little less free form maybe than the first game could be.
Yeah, I have no idea where the story goes. I'm probably not being fair to the game, but like the basic setup of it, basically just being like, here is another maniacal ideologue in a different part of the same underwater city, kind of doing the same thing again. You know, it was just like,
yeah,
boy, it really feels like you just made a sequel to somebody else's game with kind of the same layout.
Yes. Yeah. And then Infinite felt like the reaction to that of just like, oh, you're going to let other people touch my franchise, huh? Well,
right.
Here's what we have to say about that. And I thought that like back and forth call and response of those 3 games was maybe one of the most interesting things about it. Yeah. But
I wouldn't be surprised if the brief for 2 was that restrictive. You know, like that they probably didn't have much creative license. Who knows?
Right. Sure. Or time. Potentially.
Let's get Steve Gaynor on here. Tell us all about it.
That's right. Also, this VGC story points out at the bottom that apparently Ken Levine's game at Ghost Story Games is supposedly like moving into the quote later stages of production.
Whoa, it's been a while.
Remember him?
Sure. And narrative Legos, baby. Let's do it.
I guess
build some Legos.
From last October. That this is also based on some job listings. It sounds like. Supposedly they're making progress on whatever that is.
Okay.
Yes. You know what game had its progress violently arrested?
What was it?
Never in a million years would anyone guess this.
Castlevania Resurrection for the Dreamcast. Which a prototype of which I guess has leaked and is out there. Well, it's not. I don't think it's fully available on the internet yet. I have to imagine that'll happen eventually.
Ideally, people will get a chance to look at this, but
yes. Right now there is just video out there of this demo. It sounds like it was going to be the E3 demo, or it was a demo they made prior to E3 99 to show to Games Press at the time. But this is kind of the long lost, canceled Dreamcast Castlevania game.
Yeah,
that is out there and will hopefully be playable for people at some point. Starring
this game.
Did you ever see this?
I may have. I honestly don't remember. Someone did. You know, we probably took an appointment for this, assuming they were showing it to online media at that time. It could have been one of those things where they showed it to long lead press only, so only print mags got to see it, or something like that. Definitely happened at E3 here and there.
Yeah.
So I don't think I saw it per se, but it's certainly maybe there's a hands-on or some kind of preview on GameSpot somewhere from whoever did. And this game took on a weird legendary aura over the years where people started fan sites devoted to like picking apart every screenshot and piece of footage they could get their hands on, and kind of hoping that one day it would surface. And so there's been like a lot of really interesting excitement around this in a way. But I guess the basic story of it, which this Polygon story does kind of get into a little bit, is that this was developed at Konami of America.
Yes.
And it would have been the first Castlevania game to come out of the US, and that maybe some politics got in the way of that and got it killed.
There's an amazing line in this old 2007 interview people dug up with the art director on this game. The game was very eagerly anticipated. The negative reaction was based off rumors leaked by some people within Konami who had their own agenda.
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
So, dude is straight up alleging internal sabotage that took this game down.
I don't know.
Take that for what you will, I suppose. Anyway, I mean, this is just a demo. It's not the full game, I believe.
Looks like you're able to skip around to different levels.
Yeah, I was going to say
it was an E3 demo. Well, I mean, certainly not the public.
Maybe this turns out to be a situation where like the whole game as it was actually exists on the disc and people figure out how to get into it or something. I don't know. But
maybe.
Yeah, it's possible.
I don't know. It's always super cool to see stuff like just fragments of history like this turn back up.
Totally.
And kind of enter the catalog.
4x3 ass game.
Yeah. I bet it's not great.
It's the developer's original vision, okay?
Yes. Yes, they intended for people to play it on IMAX.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I played a game on an IMAX once.
What?
Ooh.
Holy shit.
Dang.
Wow.
I don't know why, we were doing some random video. We got like hired out to do video gigs every once in a while at GameSpot because we were a video team at GameSpot UK. And we had, what did they do? Crytek or something, did a Crisis Warhead, I want to guess, demo at the London IMAX. And we just did the tech on it. So we just routed the whole thing. But we got to I sat back and played Crisis on a fucking, it was impossible.
Wow.
Oh no, sorry, yeah. They weren't actually playing the game. I think we decided to play the game, but maybe it wasn't for Crisis. But I did play Crisis Warhead on an IMAX screen. I forget what the thing actually was.
Sounds impossible.
It was absolutely, like, the gun is as big as, like, I don't know, 80 people or something. It was just like stupidly big. Yeah. But it was fun. We did it. It was cool.
That sounds like a lot. All right. Last story real quick. Speaking of preservation, Jan, I put this in here for you.
Oh, baby.
The Neopets, the makers of Neopets are contemplating the idea in the wake of Flash being killed of bringing Neopets to the Switch.
Man.
What does this mean? We go now to our special...
It must have been 2004. I thought I needed more Neo coins, whatever the currency was. And then I had this scimitar on like my monkey looking Neopet. And then it was like a rare monkey looking Neopet. And I was really jazzed about him. And then like I was playing tug of war and I was like grinding out for resources. And then a friend was like, yo, dog, we could get free Neo coins or whatever if we just like go to this link and just input our stuff. And then me being a dumb 7th grader just saw like a thing that looked like HTML code and was like, oh yeah, they're probably gonna hack me into the game. I put in my username and my password in the requisite spots, and then I log in later, and then it was all gone.
What?
They were all gone. All my Neopets were gone except the basic ass one. All my coins were gone. The cool scimitar thing that I found was gone.
They stole your Neopets?
They stole
What
them.
happened?
They stole all.
Ultimate Team.
They stole your monkey and your scimitar?
Yes.
God,
Yes.
that's a bad day.
Man.
You learned an important lesson that day.
Yeah, everybody's got to learn once.
Yeah.
It's tragic.
Yeah.
And then wasn't Neopets run by a cult or something?
What?
Scientology. I think
Oh,
Scientology
boy.
just bought it or something. Yeah, there's
Okay.
an episode of people make games about that. It's been a while. I think it was a couple of years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But I don't know how they.
So maybe you got off light, honestly.
Yeah. Maybe I'd be in a completely different place if I still had that monkey and scimitar.
What's your Teton level?
Yeah. Was the monkey clear?
It was red, so that was pretty rare.
Oh.
You don't get
I
your
don't know
plan.
how you port this to
wait.
the Switch because Neopets is just like a bunch of mini games, other than like the I guess the pet management
Haven't they done
aspect of
other?
it. I don't
I
know if
seem
they
to
have
remember
done a
them
bunch.
doing like a top-down game.
Did they?
Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
was there some other Neopets thing, or was that a knockoff of Neopets?
Yeah,
But
the Darkest Fairy
right.
PlayStation 2 game.
Oh wow, I remember
Is
that.
top-down?
Yes, it's all
Weird.
flooding back.
Yeah, totally. Huh. There is zero indication this is actually going to happen. To be clear,
Right.
this came out of this came out of a Washington Post report about Habbo Hotel and a handful of other major Flash games that are like
Hell yeah.
scrambling, doing their best to try to live on in a post-Flash world. And yeah, they apparently it sounds like Neopets still fairly popular.
Dude, and they stole my pets, which were like the smaller pets for the Neopets.
Son of a
Is there
bitch.
pets?
This is
How far do the
just-
pets go down?
Dude,
Yeah.
the pets, it's a lot of pets.
yeah,
Oh man.
this is-
And they like kicked me out of my house and my village. Oh man.
I'm sorry for dredging up these.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Maybe you can experience that all over again on the Nintendo Switch.
That's right.
Maybe I can do that to someone else this time.
Yeah,
There we go.
See, now you've learned.
Full circle.
go
baby.
register like free Neopets, neocoins.biz, and then we'll get moving.
Find
That's
me
right.
on
Neopets with a Z.
Yeah,
Yep.
Dude, you're gonna have more monkeys and scimitars than you know what to do with.
What is that called? God damn it.
All right. That was going to be the end of news, but then real fast, this came into my inbox
Breaking.
right before the podcast started. Remember the Blizzard Arcade collection that was like amazingly good?
yes.
They just
like
added
Nintendo.
more free games to it.
Ooh, cool.
What?
They have now added Lost Vikings 2 and RPM Racing to that thing for free, in addition to some other modes and stuff, and some new, some even more bonus materials they've patched into that thing.
I like the
It's
idea.
pretty
that this
crazy.
is like,
Patched in. It's
like
not
Mike is-
DLC.
It's like his mule.
Yeah, it's free.
Like stuffing more of those games out there. Just like keep packing it in. Keep
Yeah,
more.
yeah, that thing continues to be amazing, and just seeing them cram even more stuff into it. I just want to give props to the people who make that thing.
Good job, Drew.
Yes, Drew did it all by himself.
Yes.
RPM Racing, I remember not being a great game in terms of just like it maybe just didn't
Yeah.
run great, but it is the precursor to Rock and Roll Racing. So
Yeah,
there's
that-
definitely
this-
like a
Press release straight up characterizes it as like this is the seed that would eventually bloom into rock and roll racing. But still,
but
just
like
as
historically,
a-
that's awesome that it's available.
Totally.
Yeah, super cool.
I
yeah,
don't
they've
think I
added a
ever
bunch
played
of-
Lost Vikings 2. Is it much different? Or is it like super similar? Do you,
I think it's super similar. Is there a lady Viking now? That seems like something you might do for a sequel.
that sounds like,
to
well,
it.
that's what 2
Oh,
used
right.
to be for a good
Norse
while.
by
She had-
Northwest, the return of
Does
Lost
she-
Vikings.
Does she have a bow in her helmet?
Norse by Northwest.
Get out of town. There are new Vikings. There's Fang and there's Scorch. Scorch is a fireball attack.
There's a Scorch
You
in
don't say.
Republic Commando too, as well. Republic Commando also.
Does he have a fireball attack?
He does. He's the fire guy. Available now on
Okay.
Switch.
That makes sense. Fire Guy now available on Switch.
Ooh,
Yes.
ooh. Speaking about Fireball, late breaking news. Ryu and Chun-Li are headed to another game. Fucking Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, baby.
Yo, what?
Yo,
Oh, dang.
Ryu still
Okay.
has his headband on and it's going through the helmet, and him and Chun-Li both have dragon armor. That's huge.
That's
like
a
the
great
vest
deal.
thing. God damn.
Did they join the Shield too? Like what? Like big bulletproof vests? Like what do we got?
Ryu's the Crimson Hawk Ranger, y'all. He's entered the grid. That's wild.
That is
Wow.
It's pretty crazy that game is still getting supported. That game's like pretty cool though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I tried it a
Yeah,
few
it's not
times and
bad.
never really got into it, but it seems like it found some people along the way. So that's kind of rad.
They've got some smart people working on like the battle engine for that. So some like very well-known names in like the Marvel community and such. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
it plays a lot like that.
Well, that was some news block. Why don't we take a quick break and come back and try to cram a few emails in? Let's give it a shot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Quality razors at a fair price. That's the Harry's promise. Harry's is here to deliver award-winning blades at factory direct prices. And for a limited time, Harry's is offering their starter set plus a free body wash for just $3 at harrys.com/bomb. Now, what is Harry's? Harry's delivers a close, comfortable shave at a fair price, only $2 per refill. Harry's believes in quality so much, they bought their own factory in Germany. Yeah, a German factory. That's right. A factory in Germany, so they can own every step of the manufacturing process. They've combined a simple ergonomic design with 5 sharp blades. It's 5 blades. That's Swedish steel. In their German factory, they've got a world-class blade factory, Swedish steel. You can't go wrong. Harry's German factory is one of the select few manufacturers in the world that have mastered the technology to create a Gothic arch, the gold standard for razor blade grinding. And they've got a 100% quality guarantee. They stand behind the quality of these blades so much, you can get your money back 100% on harrys.com. And for a limited time, Harry's has an exclusive offer. New customers can get a Harry's starter set and a free body wash for just $3 at harrys.com/bomb. That's over a $16 value for just $3. You'll get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, a travel cover, and a travel-size body wash. It's an incredibly great deal, but act fast while supplies last. Go to harrys.com/bomb to redeem your offer.
All right, let's do a few emails before we get out of here. Bombcast at giantbomb.com. Ooh, boy. That's right.
There we go.
Well-known email song, everybody's favorite. You know and love it. First email, maybe only email. We'll see. From Greg.
That good.
You know we need it. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Greg just says, you know we need it. WrestleMania thoughts?
Oh, okay. Jeff, Danny, Jason.
Yep.
Did y'all watch?
I did watch.
I saw
both nights.
I saw some of it. Yeah.
Night 1, so much better than night 2.
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Glad to Cesaro finally get his it's wild.
23 swings in.
Yeah, 23 swings. He did the UFO. He finally did the UFO.
Yep. Oh, yeah. On the grandest stage of them all. It's the first singles.
Okay. All right. Speaking about the grandest stage of them all, like, I know it was insane to think that the WWE wouldn't try and fit a bunch of people super close together, but they just squished them all together. And then as the event progressed, you would just see more and more people just not bothering and having a mask on. And they would cut to them cheering, like, mask completely off, not even like doing the chin strap thing. It's just completely off, just like, Aah! And I'm like, oh my God.
They were supposed to be selling these as like pods or something. So maybe just the way the show was shot made them look a little bit closer together than they really were. But boy, they sure seemed a little closer together than they should be. I wonder. So I saw a lot more people complaining about camera work and the angles and cuts and stuff than I normally do. And, you know, like that's been a long time problem. But it made me wonder, do you think they were trying to shoot it tighter to try to get less crowd and fewer people with no masks on back there, or what? Like, it just, that definitely stood out. And I know they, you know, because they were the first show back after 9/11 to have a live crowd. And I know they love that tidbit and that factoid and all that other stuff. And
wait, do they still bring that up?
You're not constantly, but like, you know, I get the impression that internally that is a point of pride for them.
Sure.
And I get the impression that this is, they wanted to have a big live crowd here. Obviously football has done some stuff. It's not the first live crowd, but it looked real bad. Like that part of it looked real bad. And parts of that show were so kind of middling to boring that I kept watching it and thinking like, God, imagine like getting COVID to see this show. Like, God, like how not worth it would that be? It had its awesome moments, but like by and large, I kind of watched it. Just felt like another show, but I'm so out of the loop on whatever they're doing. Like, I don't think I've watched anything they've done since the Royal Rumble. So it was definitely a feeling of these matches are happening. Okay, sure.
Yeah. They give you enough context in the recaps,
of course.
Before the matches. That's all that I need, because I don't watch the weekly stuff.
Yeah. I've stopped
there's
following the weekly stuff too.
There were some definite standouts in that first night in particular. That Bianca and Sasha match was really good. That Bad Bunny performance. That guy hit some spots. Man.
That's all I
hit some spots.
As somebody who is not in this world at all, that's all I saw on Twitter were the words Bad Bunny. I don't know.
The Bad Bunny. I have no idea who he is.
He's apparently
help
pretty
me
big
out
here.
Bad Bunny is like,
I can't.
He's incredibly huge, like rap star, like Puerto Rican, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And like he's insanely huge, but like, the only Instagram account he follows, I believe he has like 8 million plus followers. The only account he follows is the WWE, and that's been from the very get-go. So I think he's been like kind of like trying to work himself in for the longest time. And like apparently before some of his actual concerts, he would just before like in between like the warm-up act and him actually starting, if it was like on a Monday or a Thursday, he would just be playing like Raw or SmackDown for the folks at home, because he's like that big of a fan. Like he's had Ric Flair on a music video. He has a song just called Booker T, and then Booker T is just standing there like as he wraps around him. But he's fucking huge. And then like he just wound up weaseling his way in week per week and actually doing the work and like putting in training. And he was absolutely amazing. He's probably one of the best celebrity guests the WWE's have ever had. Because that guy was like, he did 90% of the work in that tag match. Like it might as it was
I mean, he's working with Miz and Morrison, who are like amazing performers also. So I mean, they helped make him look like a fucking $1 million for sure. But like, what the? I mean, did like a fucking Canadian destroyer on the floor, right? Like just like crazy shit that you're like stuff that you wouldn't, stuff that like a celebrity would not do in these matches. They would come in and be like, oh, what did I get signed up to do? Okay, I guess I'll do this, and maybe I'll jump off the top with an elbow or something. Or, but like he showed up the Royal Rumble and take a stunner. Exactly. He showed up the Royal Rumble and dove out of the ring onto somebody, and it's like, oh, that's neat. But like this was like they involved him in a lot of the major parts of that match in a way that you expected, like, oh, the other guy in this tag team is going to do the heavy lifting. He'll just be there to pin the guy at the end, and that'll be their big mainstream media moment that they get. But like he did a fucking great job. Like everyone involved in that match did a really great job. It was super impressive.
Yeah, Miz and Morrison.
So in contrast, the second. Oh no, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Oh no, yeah. Just echoing Jeff's point. Like Miz and Morrison probably like Miz for like character work and like John Morrison's like athletic ability to help make that Canadian destroyer go.
Take that destroyer,
dude.
Yeah,
super impressive. And also like I think the other thing is like it's very easy to forget that like he's a huge star right now. He's not some guy that was just like, I was big, like a Logan Paul, for example, and maybe I'm off base on that, but he seems like a guy that came up a lot more often 3 to 5 years ago. And so when you get him in wrestling, you're like, oh, this guy. Whereas
I'll put it this way, Logan Paul was the first person I saw hawking NFTs a while back. If that tells you the kind of category he exists in now.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, now the WWE is.
Yeah. Right. Also, yes, which had was a sad tinged moment. But anyway, Bad Bunny seems like huge right now in a way that like you're like, oh, this is really crazy for just how large he is, and like I had not heard of him prior to this, honestly. So for whatever that's worth, but yes, he is fucking selling records out there for sure.
Mm-hmm. It hasn't just been like a one night thing. Like he's been kind of making appearances here and there.
Yeah. Like I remember the most amazing celebrity spot was probably like Snooki doing a cartwheel, or Stephen Amell did like a lot of work when
Stephen Amell was probably probably like the best like in ring celebrity. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Jay Leno, of course. I mean, has done wonders for the business. Karl Malone.
I mean, who could forget Drew Carey's amazing performance in the Royal Rumble? Also,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Right.
There's just a long list of amazing moments there. But
that Pete Rose, yeah.
Brad, you remember last year at WrestleMania? I think it was last year where John Cena got sent to like the Shadow Realm.
Yes.
And the
How could I forget?
And the Fiend was like a strong and imposing character, and you kind of build up that character for like months on months on months, only for him to like be defeated in like less than a minute, and then you rebuild him back up again, and invest all that time, and then he also winds up burning another superstar alive, and then he also like kind of kidnaps and possesses another superstar, and then you just build him back up again, and you would think like, okay, here's his moment. The Fiend is gonna win. The Fiend is gonna like have this huge payoff or whatever. He's gonna send Randy Orton to the Shadow Realm also.
Legend killer.
Yeah, the Legend Killer. The Legend Killer's gonna die. Only for Bray Wyatt or the Fiend to get distracted because Alexa Bliss is like bleeding.
She changed her outfit and she's like sweating black
Gunk.
shit. I don't know. Yeah.
Booze.
And
It was
then he
probably.
gets RKO'd. One RKO and then gets defeated.
Just one.
That's all you need.
That's all I need.
Just another year in the Shadow Realm, I guess.
yep. It was also weird that they referenced John Cena at one point on that show, considering in storyline John Cena has been banished to another realm. For them to say like, and John Cena's not even here tonight. Like, yeah, no, of course he's not, because he's trapped in some fucking dark, otherworldly dimension.
Yeah, it's
So-
called Hollywood.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. Like, I feel like that was a case where the announcers probably needed to do more work to explain what was supposed to be happening in that segment. And then they did a replay later. Maybe it was the following night or probably both. And at no point did they lend any context to what you had seen. It was just like the lady came out of the box and then he got distracted and lost the match. And then everyone disappeared. You're like, okay, I just don't. They did something the following night, but like, I'm not going to watch Raw. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
What realm is John Cena in?
Well, I say
Shit.
Shadow Realm as like a
in
pejorative
the-
term. He's like in the Firefly Funhouse or
Yeah,
something.
he's technically trapped.
What
in
if
the
he turns
Firefly
up in the
Funhouse.
Mortal Kombat movie? What if he's like, that's
Hey.
one of the realms that we didn't know
Could
about?
be. Yeah.
Could be in Space Jam too, for all we know.
Funhouse, yeah.
There we go.
I kind of like the 2-night format. I'd rather take
I think
that
it's
than
too
like
much, but-
6 or 8 hours for one day.
Truly.
Uh,
But at the same time, like I feel like, a third of those matches could have been cut as well. I just didn't have enough invested in them. I guess. Like I'm used to WrestleMania being this, this huge spectacle. I still remember watching WrestleMania 3 and like every damn match was, something to remember, I guess. I don't know about this. This seems like too much over two nights.
Yeah, it's too
4
much and
hours
not
apiece.
enough, or like it's just like
Yeah.
it feels like the spectacle is missing by spreading it out over 2 nights. You end up with 2 main events, and neither of them feel as big
Yep.
as they could be. They have to structure 2 full shows and 2 full cards and all this other stuff, and neither of them feel full because you've got your stars spread across both nights. And so it's a weird microcosm of like the brand split problems. But I mean, next year it sounds like they're going back to
Totally.
one day as soon as the pandemic is done. They want to just get back to one day, I guess. So
Yeah.
you know,
Well, speaking of the brand split, that makes for like 10 different titles that are like potentially changing hands. It's hard to make. I don't know. I prefer a concentrated format, I guess.
I think
I
so
didn't
too.
like night 2 all that much.
Yeah,
did miss
night
the
1 had some
armbar.
cool stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And in
right,
stark
yeah.
contrast to the Bad Bunny stuff that Logan Paul, like, just as Danny said, he just came out and took a stunner essentially, and that was it.
Oh, cool. He did actually just get the
But
stunner
he,
treatment.
but he was
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
booed the entire time, which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great to see Hulk Hogan get booed too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Ow.
Really?
Okay.
yeah. And then they'd pump in the Crowd
there's a moment, I think it was on night 2, where like so he was co-hosts of the show with Titus O'Neil, and they both come out and they talk, and Hulk Hogan says something to kind of set up Titus, and it's just like, you know something, brother, like whatever he's going to say. Titus just takes a step forward, does not turn to acknowledge Hulk Hogan in any way, shape, or form, and just begins to speak. That I was like, yeah, that's exactly what that fucking bullshit deserves.
Awesome. Yeah. God bless Titus O'Neil. Such a nice human being, having to be professional with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. That's why he got the Warrior Award.
All right. On that note, a couple more emails real fast here. Question from Mike. In an announcement that is both surprising and obvious, like a cultural magic eye poster, the VTuber Corpse Husband will be playing Among Us with the kids from Stranger Things on Jimmy Fallon next week. My question.
What's the name of the VTuber?
Corpse Husband.
Oh, okay.
My question, a decade ago, how did you imagine games culture intermingling with pop culture generally? Do you have any guesses about what comes next? My Galaxy Brain take is that as AI text generation, Vocaloids, and 3D modeling improve, we're bound to see fully automated entertainment on Netflix, Amazon, and YouTube.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I can't say I saw it going this way. I'm trying to think, what were the big mainstream, Pac-Man Fever was pretty big. That song was everywhere back in my day.
Yeah.
People loved that Pac-Man Fever.
I feel like the internet took a sharp swerve close to somewhere about a couple years into the last decade. Like a 2012 somewhere around there. I don't know. Things kind of went off the rails.
Yeah, it's kind of like exciting in a lot of ways, and I think the VTuber technology is really fascinating and all that. But yeah,
was it upload speeds and webcams? Because the music industry got real not interesting, and then MTV died and video games took its place. Like, it's just a lot of the kids' video game Twitch world, YouTube world stuff is just replacing that cult of personality stuff that we used to get on MTV, or God knows what was before that. So was it just that, like the access?
Are you saying is Corpse Husband the Adam Curry of the era? The Carson Daly of
maybe the Tom Green. Maybe there's a lot of Tom Greens. Like, remember Jackass used to be like, Jackass was novel because those guys got on television, and then suddenly you didn't need to get on anything. You could just put it on the internet, and then everyone did.
Yeah, so there was nothing stopping. They had to have all the warnings on Jackass, but at some point, YouTube existed, and it was just like, well, we'll just film our stuff and put it up. We don't need to go make a skate video. Yeah, but
at least and I'm not trying to be disparaging of current people who are doing this for entertainment's sake, but the barrier to entry for a lot of this stuff is you had to be good at something. You had to be a good musician or a skateboarder, or I guess in the case of Jackass, you just had to not really be good at just
pain tolerance, or
you had to be good at doing things that nobody else would do.
Yeah. Whereas video games are designed to make you good, so they're the perfect vector because they're designed to make everyone feel like they're good at them. So it's it's a perfect way to play and experience and connect with people. And I do wonder though, is this just the way things are now? Because games, unlike music and TV, are games are now designed with this in mind. So will they just keep riding the wave of this being this cultural force, or will eventually, I don't know, fucking music get good again?
Yeah, it's good music. Yeah, will it top out at some point? Yeah. In terms of just widespread mainstream success, what was it? It was Ninja was on the New Year's Eve ball drop show trying to teach people a Fortnite dance, and it was this you just watch it and go this sucks. Even if you like that dude, it still is just terrible. It's a dire segment, but now it's just more and more people approaching this stuff on its own terms instead of having to and getting big that way. For hey, the concept of a VTuber getting big is something that you would think would just never happen in a huge mainstream sense because of the nature of just how anime that shit can be. You're well, this will never get super big, but I feel it's it's certainly not in this, but like in this country is getting bigger and bigger and more accepted, and more people are using the tech, and it's very accessible, it's very democratized, and cool. I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
that stuff is out there for more and more people to use for a variety of reasons. I think it's really amazing and empowering for people. But I think mainstream success means a different thing. So like that's the thing that happened to music, right? Is like and to television is the concept of the shared experience. Hey, we've only got 3 channels and everyone's watching this TV show, and those ratings and those audiences and those mainstream moments are long gone. The idea of like the radio station's only playing the same 20 songs, like that's still true, but now people are getting music from a billion different places and finding things on Bandcamp and finding this and that, and they have the whole history of recorded music at their disposal at any moment. So now Spotify is in the business of like selling their algorithm to the highest bidder or whatever to try to recreate radio, to try to make stars that way. And so you've got that push and pull of like, there is no shared experience in music, except people are very much trying to force people down a path where they will interact with certain artists that need to get that push for whatever reason to try and become bigger mainstream stars and all that sort of stuff. So like I think you see it with like, like WWE on television and the deals they're doing and all that different stuff. Like what matters on television still is that like appointment viewing, it's live, it's the shared experience, the same way a Twitch live stream is, and to a different scale, to a different size of audience. And that goes both ways. The biggest Twitch streams will dwarf the number of people that will watch an episode of Raw in some cases. So, but only the very biggest. That's not necessarily a super common occurrence. So it's, I don't know. I guess the short answer is like shit is crazy. And as more and more tools get democratized, the experiences get distributed across wider and wider bases of people. And it's exciting because there's just so much different shit happening out there. Yeah. It's just hard to curate it all.
Know what's going to hit. Yeah.
That's what's hard cool now, I think. Because like I feel like that first wave of YouTubers, and people have to be creative now because there's so many people in this space. So these like VTubers, and I don't know, it's like every week there's like a new type. Even I remember when like God knows what's happened since, but when Dr. Disrespect the idea that somebody on Twitch would be playing a character was novel just a couple of years ago. Right. And like now look where we are. So like,
like Face Rig came out, 5+ years ago? Like the technology, the tracking, like that stuff has been available for a while, but whoever saw it like actually taking hold where people are like, like you said, playing characters live in that kind of format. That's wild.
It's more getting more and more creative. It seems like, cause it has to be, cause like the gold rush is over. So it's, who knows? That's the fun thing, is like, God knows what's going to be like in another couple of years.
Yeah, and I think I like it because it paves the way for a lot of stuff to just be really weird, and I hope that stuff can find success on its own terms. Like that's what I want, is like people that are out there on Twitch doing really fucking weird shit. And I think that is, I want more of that, and I want that to be able to be successful. And it's been cool to see people get a little strange as it does kind of branch out.
Yeah, what a weird world we live in, that like awesome games done quick is now mainstream. Like that's right. That's like a normal thing now to us. It used to be so on the fringe.
I think machine learning, as it gets even more accessible to regular people and as it matures, and like the things that people are going to be able to generate convincingly, is going to be another thing that's really going to turn all this stuff on its head again. We're not quite there yet.
Have to interview a developer ever again. I could just fucking have someone write it up.
I kind of don't want to think about what it's going to be like. I mean, all bets are off once you can convincingly create video and voice samples of people. Like we're not that far off. Like those tools are out there. Like they are getting better. It's pretty frightening, I think. But we'll see.
Yeah, and the algorithms are getting better at being more personalized in ways that probably also make it easier for someone to slip in. Here's the thing we want to be big, but it's mixed in with so many other things that we know are like laser focused on you, that you will watch it all the way through too, because you trust this algorithm. And so like the TikTok algorithm, I think, is the one people go back to, is just like, it's scary how good it can be. And so I've been using TikTok a lot more lately. I've been watching a lot of videos on TikTok, and I feel like my takeaways from like starting to curate a feed on TikTok and watching videos or not watching videos has been interesting to watch it adjust. And so my takeaways are like that algorithm is really scary in some really interesting ways. And the other one is like, I think I'm really I think that like a lot of people in their 20s are they're going to be all right. They're like, what? There's just a lot of super fucking funny shit and people that are just like have a really good attitude about fucking how crazy shit is right now. And like watching their approach to it and watching that generation kind of come in. There was this feeling of just like, man, these kids are all right. These kids are all fucking right.
This is a very random question, but TikTok related. Has anyone seen the Ratatouille TikTok musical? Okay, that was a bunch of nonsense.
I've heard about it. Yeah.
It's so funny because it's a bunch. It's it's what Jeff is saying. It's a bunch of like young 20-year-olds, even younger, like people just popping on, collaborating. But it's so weird because like I think with us specifically, we're so I guess trained to look at the camera, be presentable in a certain way. But these kids don't fucking care. There's no style guide for them. Like some of them in those videos and TikToks across the board, they'll be like looking. They won't be looking at their like front facing camera on their phone. They'll be looking at themselves, and like so the eyeline is all over the place and everything. And it's just so weird because in my head, like working in video for a while now, it's just like it doesn't look good to me. But yet you see like the engagement just fucking going to the moon and everything.
It's cool.
And it's really cool, and it's
they're
like
making a new visual language, which film isn't very good at doing. It happens,
and throwing away the stuff that maybe doesn't matter to them, like an eye line and like, hey, making sure that everyone's looking in the right directions and filming all these skits and all this stuff. Like,
what is that quote from, I think, Brian Eno, that like the limitations of any given format will be the things that people 20 years from now like revere about it. Like the flaws and idiosyncrasies of the thing or what give it character.
Totally.
All right. Let me cram one more email in here. This one's very closely related to that one real fast. Andrew in Richmond, Virginia. Help, I've become absolutely infatuated with the Twitch channel Shrimps 24/7. Do you all have any new rabbit holes that you've been diving into as of late? Thanks. I spent some time on Shrimps 24/7 last night, and let me tell you, I think I'm going to become a frequent visitor.
There's a Japanese weather channel that is streaming on Twitch 24/7 that is that's pretty good. What is it? If you just want vibes. God, I'll have to hang on. I think I subscribed to it. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here it is. Weather News Live.
Okay.
Is the name of the Twitch channel. There's one I can't remember the name of it, but it is a night cam of someone's backyard and they put out food and a bunch of raccoons come and eat. And that's real good too. Okay. There was one guy I saw it was a couple of months ago now, but it was a guy who was just streaming himself. He was in Florida, I think, and he was making donuts. It was like a small donut shop that he was working at. And so he was there like working late shift, just making donuts and hanging out with chat. And it was this like super wholesome, just like, it's like, yeah, man, I'm just here, like wearing a little headset while he does it and just chopping it up with people, just hanging out. I was like, that's super fucking cool. Yeah, there's some neat shit out there for sure.
Is that Raccoon Channel where I saw that clip on Twitter from of like an old dude on the deck at night feeding hot dogs to like 30 raccoons?
I don't know. It's Critter Vision, I believe, is the name of it. But I don't know that I've ever seen humans on it.
Okay, this guy was like swarmed and covered in raccoons that were all just eating hot dogs.
They took their turns and
they were relatively polite about it as raccoons go.
Yeah. During COVID, I got way into this YouTuber called Shie, who's a dude who just like jumps on the backs of trains and travels around Europe like illegally for free. And he's been doing it for years and he covers his face up so you never see his face, but they're crazy. They're like, you could watch, like, I think, he did one where he went into the exclusion zone in Chernobyl and they just like, backpack and hide underneath trains and it's totally wild. But yeah, some of them are super long. And when I couldn't leave the house for a year, all I did was watch his entire back catalog. They were so cool.
Wow. I'm told by chat that the old guy that I'm referring to is the Raccoon Whisperer, and that he owns.
Yep.
So,
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be following up on that for sure.
Yeah. But there's a old timey computer show, which is running like basically they built a playlist of like Japanese tapes and episodes of Computer Chronicles and all this other stuff. Like that's a good one to leave on.
Computer Chronicles has been some significant comfort food for me over the last year.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Vectroid Live, VTubing it up out there, doing a lot of music making, and early on exposed me to a lot of archive.org fucking weird educational multimedia CD-ROMs that are super fucking crazy. Some Dom DeLuise making sauce type stuff, and just a lot of really crazy shit there. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool shit happening out there that isn't just, hey, we're streaming the 3 games that people care about. And yeah, I hope that is something that can be like financially viable for more and more people. Because it really, sometimes it seems like Twitch is ending up in that same boat that like mp3.com went through, where mp3.com went through a transition where it was all indie artists uploading their own music, uploading our own music. And then one day the front page of mp3.com was like, we've got Ice-T's new song. And Eminem's new track is here for download. And suddenly all those indie artists were just wiped off the front page, and just all of it fucking went away. And, like Twitch sometimes feels like it is really trying to find and serve you the biggest of the big. And I think that stuff's like fine. But it's not what I'm looking for when I'm visiting that website. So, yeah.
Well, just remember, it's not enough for it to be sustainable.
Right.
If the numbers aren't doubling at a steady clip, shut it down.
Right.
All right. That's it for emails. Man, apologies to Nathan and Tumwater in Washington. I have one of his emails on here. We'll have to sit on that one until next week.
Take the L.
Yes, that's right. Bombcast at giantbomb.com. Thanks to everybody for listening this week. Thanks to everybody here for attending this podcast. I would have had a hard time doing it without you.
You could have done it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just have a bunch of puppets.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just
machine learning.
I haven't looked. Sure. I haven't looked at face rigs since the last time we did it on UPF. I should see what's going on with that thing.
They released a set of different, they released a new thing that they want to make into a subscription thing, and it kind of sucks. And they were eventually going to actually, they were going to remove face rig in favor of that, I think, at some point, but maybe they held off. Anyone who bought face rig or has face rig, I think, would be grandfathered in or something. But anyway.
Don't worry.
I don't know where that lies. I just remember that thing being like, oh, it's not what you want it to be.
It'll all end up
the product name. You could never beat the product name, though. Face rig.
I know. Face rig.
It's right there.
So pure.
Yeah.
Right there in the name. It's right there in the name. All right. That's going to do it for this week's podcast. Thank you, Danny, for being here as always.
Pleasure.
No clip. And we will see you back here next week for another one.